Chapter 524. Are you sure? Who would have thought? Su Fang's biggest problem was solved in the blazing inferno purgatory. Xianhuang's 6 Paths Pagoda nodded. Xianhuang is absolutely sure that the heat in the depths can burn any catastrophe realm cultivator to death in a short time. It will take about 5 years. If we can stay in the center for this period of time, Xianhuang will be able to perfectly refine the origin essence. 5 years? Was it possible? 5 years was not an ordinary period of time. This was a secret prison controlled by the Xinyuan Empire, and the place with the highest temperature was most likely the blazing inferno purgatory. To have the opportunity to temper oneself under the eyes of the Xinyuan Empire. Everyone, be careful. Use your defense as well. The people who are waiting outside must hide well. Don't let the Xinyuan Empire sense them. Outside the blazing inferno, World Sister Yu and a few catastrophe realm elders were discussing something. More than 20 of them stayed behind and immediately fled into the mountains and forests behind them. She then gave an order. Under the leadership of the elders, more than 30 people followed the scouts and used their defenses. Braving the terrifying flames, they flew through the flames. The deeper they went, the more terrifying the flames were. Their flesh, fetus, divine armors would occasionally melt. After flying for a long time, they finally arrived in front of a large forest that looked like flames. The blazing inferno purgatory is in the blazing inferno forest. Everyone immediately went to the ground. Although it was the ground, it was still burning red. On the flint that could burn life to ashes, everyone felt their flesh, fetus, divine armors were about to be burned through. Aunt Yu and the other elders looked at the crowd and said solemnly, "After the final decision, we have to work together to rescue the experts of the divine sect. Over the years, we have collected a lot of secrets about the Inferno Purgatory. Fortunately, some experts who were imprisoned here accidentally revealed some of the secrets of the Inferno Purgatory after being released. Even so, we can't all kill our way in. After all, we don't know what's going on inside. Therefore, we'll send 3 people to explore the way in the Inferno Purgatory, according to the legend. Once we find the elders of the divine sect, we'll immediately activate the rune talisman and then sneak in and attack the guards. You guys can rescue the elders from inside and work together to escape the Inferno Purgatory." One of the elders continued, "Right now, Sister Yu needs 3 people to volunteer to carry out this infiltration plan." Sister Yu reminded them again, "Everyone, think it through. This infiltration plan might be very dangerous, and we might not necessarily succeed." After a while, the 30 or so people remained silent. It seemed like no one was willing to do so. In fact, there was no need for Sister Yu and the others to say it. They all knew that once they entered, it would be a dead end. "I'll go." All of a sudden, a person that no one had expected suddenly stood out. Su Fang, the most surprised person, was Sister Yu. In this place, she was the only one who had interacted with Su Fang. In fact, the others did not know where Su Fang came from or what kind of strength he had. He had appeared out of nowhere. The experts looked at each other, then at the elder and Sister Yu. "Are you sure?" As expected of the future successor of the God sect. Although she didn't expect Su Fang to do such a thing, she still calmly responded and asked seriously in front of everyone. Su Fang bowed to Sister Yu and said, "Isn't it just the blazing inferno purgatory? The Xinyuan Empire is indeed powerful, but it can't control everything and control the life and death of every cultivator. The God sect will definitely surpass the God sect in the future. I firmly believe in this. Sister Yu, don't worry. Even if there's a slim chance of survival, I will show the Xinyuan Empire the God sect's demeanor." "Okay, I'll go too." "Me too." "Me." It was unknown if it was intentional or not. Such passionate and fearless words in front of the crowd had an intangible effect of inspiring them. All the experts volunteered themselves. In the end, only 3 people were chosen, but an elder was sent to follow them. "Thank you. Try your best to come back alive." The elder took out a map in their hands. Under Sister Yu's orders, they followed the elder into the blazing inferno forest. The moment they disappeared, sister you secretly warned Su Fong. If the place where the prisoners are imprisoned is also the hottest place, I can think of a way to refine the origin essence there and restore the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda to its peak. Only then will I be able to fuse perfectly with the Six Paths Pagoda. Only then will I have the ability to fight against the big shots. Flying at the back, Su Fong had already forgotten about the Five Poison Divine Sect. In fact, he volunteered mainly to think of a way to refine the origin essence in the blazing inferno purgatory. Saving people was another matter altogether. If he could seize this opportunity to restore the black-yellow Six Daos Pagoda to its peak and obtain a perfect natal magic treasure, his strength and ability would be something that even the elders and great elders could only gasp in amazement. The flames became fiercer and fiercer. The flesh armor melted layer by layer. The few people were constantly changing their defenses. Only the elder at the front was not affected much. We've arrived at the barrier. According to the map, there are several powerful barriers all the way into the forest. Everyone, don't use any magical seals, as that will cause even more commotion. Just follow my defense and penetrate the barriers one by one. The barriers stopped the four. However, they could not stop the elder. He was an existence that had surpassed the catastrophe realm. The three waited for a while and sensed the elder's terrifying aura. The sturdy defense turned into a cocoon-like shape and wrapped the three of them. The elder's aura began to merge with the barrier. Soon, a hole was torn open without making any noise. Just like that, under the elder's protection, they passed through the barriers one after another. Gradually, they were no longer in the forest. The aura of restrictions was everywhere. Moreover, everyone could sense the cultivator's true chi being released in different directions. The restrictions were the same as the burning flames. If a cultivator did not know this place well, it would be difficult for them to discover the restrictions because they were the same as the burning flames. They were too easy to trigger. The elder's cultivation was profound. He had collected information about this place for many years. That was why he was able to break the barriers all the way here. So far, everything was going smoothly. They could not make any mistakes. Once they were exposed, it would be impossible to save them. After passing through the barriers, they suddenly arrived at an empty abyss of flames. The bottom of the abyss was bottomless. The scorching aura was 3 times stronger. According to legend, this was the most dangerous place in the Inferno Purgatory. There were many powerful fire tribute Big Goblin, and the flames were especially terrifying. From here on out, even a peak catastrophe realm powerhouse would not be able to stay here for long. The bottom of the abyss could not be seen, but there were no restrictions for the time being. It seemed that the Xinyuan Empire had left many seals and restrictions in the outer world. However, there were no traps in the inner world. After an hour of continuous flying, the 4 of them finally arrived at the abyss. There were layers upon layers of burning caverns everywhere, and there were even some trees that were still alive. This is the most dangerous place in the Inferno Purgatory. Rumor has it that the Xinyuan Empire used a natural barrier to build a prison in the depths of this place to imprison the experts of our divine sect and the criminals of the Xinyuan Empire. Everyone, follow the map and move separately. From different directions, you will search for them layer by layer. If you move together, it will take longer. Although it is dangerous to move separately, there will be more opportunities. If you are discovered, run for your life immediately. If you are caught, do not reveal your identity as a divine sect. You are just a disciple of the divine sect. The elder instructed the 3 of them. Then, they spread out and flew to the surrounding flame caves. Squeak! After flying for a few hundred meters, Su Fong's flesh embryo divine armor began to burn in a large area. The original spirit of the Rakshasa jade vase appeared in the divine aperture. Master, the Rakshasa will transfer divine power to you. It can resist the power of fire. The original spirit of Xianhuang condensed. No, Master. At this time, Xianhuang can use the surrounding flames to start refining the original essence. Then, we will look for the hottest place. When we get there, I believe Xian Huang will have melted some of the original essence. At least, we will have refined a large amount of Xian Huang stones, primordial jade stones, and gold and silver that we got last time. In fact, Su Fang did not need to take the risk by himself. He had two magic treasures of the fire element. The Flaming Cloud, Spiritual Gourd, and the Xian Huang Six Paths Pagoda were the magic treasures at this time. In this case, he activated the Xian Huang Six Paths Pagoda and made it 1 foot long. Su Fang escaped into it. The pagoda turned red and floated slowly in the flames. It cannot be seen with the naked eye. Plus, the quality of Xian Huang was so high that only magic treasures of the same height could sense it. Comfortable. Xian Huang has not felt such a hot heaven and earth flame for a long time. The surface of the Xian Huang Six Paths Pagoda was already piled up with many primordial jade stones, Xian Huang stones, and gold and silver. They were directly touched by Xuan Huang's divine ability with the natural flames and began to be refined little by little. As for the original essence, it was in the center of the 6th layer. It was being burned by the flames that Xian Huang absorbed. It was buzzing and swaying in the flames, but there was no sign of it melting. Boom! In less than half an hour, Su Fang was fusing with Xian Huang. He sensed the movements in the surroundings and the changes in the aura of the flames. Suddenly, he heard an explosion. Could it be that someone was discovered so quickly? The voice was unusual. He judged that among the 3 people, except for the elder, one of them was discovered. Hua Hua that arrived at a flame cave. The temperature was a bit higher, but it was not much higher than the flames outside. At this time, several figures flashed past, but they did not find the Xian Huang Six Paths Pagoda. Xian Huang Six Paths Pagoda sensed the waves of flames. Master, they should be experts hiding here, because their auras emitted a kind of power that could control the temperature of the flames. They should be the experts of the Xinyuan Empire hiding here. They continued to fly deeper, approaching the place with the highest temperature. From time to time, they could also see some big goblin. Their auras were different. They were demonic chi. It seemed to be very natural here, and they did not attract the attention of the experts of the Xinyuan Empire. Time passed very slowly. Several days slowly passed just like that. Master, there's a flame cave to the right in front of us. The temperature there is obviously higher. Xian Huang made a discovery. Su Fang sensed that the temperature was indeed higher. When they arrived at the new cave, Xian Huang's Six Paths Pagoda was very happy. It continuously absorbed flames into the 6th layer space to burn the origin essence. As the temperature increased, the 3-meter-long origin essence began to emit some steam-like spirit fog. The spirit fog was the power of the world. It was the sign of being refined. However, the refining speed was too slow. Some of the spirit fog did not even account for a billionth of the entire origin essence. If this continued, it would not be able to refine it even after 100 years. Sensing that there were no new discoveries in the huge and empty flame cave, Su Fang was very anxious. He began to think of a way. Xian Huang, why don't I suppress a big goblin and ask the big goblin about the situation in the blazing inferno purgatory? Xian Huang agreed. Master, you should make good use of your advantages. Xian Huang began to sense the big goblin's aura. The big goblins here are not ordinary. Their strength is almost all at the peak of the Calamity Realm. Chapter 5:25. The reason why Su Fang hadn't considered this point before was because he couldn't even protect himself in this world of flames. How could he possibly suppress a greater demon? All he wanted to do was survive and not cause a ruckus that would attract the attention of powerful experts. Now that he was hiding in the space of the Xian Huang Six Paths Pagoda, he could cooperate with the Dharma treasure and use the primordial chaos sacred realm to suppress the big goblin here. He immediately used his perfected ability and cooperated with the Xian Huang Six Paths Pagoda to sense the aura of the fiery cave. Aura of life gradually. He sensed that there were more than 10 demonic auras in this cave. In order to infiltrate the purgatory set up by the Xinyuan Empire, he needed a powerful demon. After sensing for a while, He confirmed that there was a demonic aura that was about as powerful as the celestial snow lion and the celestial snow flying raccoon. Furthermore, it was hidden in a crack deep in the cave. The crack was naturally formed by the earth. It was about 1,000 feet deep. After thinking for a while, he deliberately released a stream of blood aura at the top of the crack. Then he let the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda hide in the flames. Su Fang left the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. With the primordial chaos, sacred realm, and the protection of the Rakshasa Jade Vase, he was not affected by the flames. Lurking in another patch of flames, the big goblin loved the blood of human cultivators. He was waiting for the powerful big goblin to appear. Of course, there were also fire-type big goblins among the junior commanders. However, it was still very difficult for them to move freely in the fiery purgatory. The power of the flames here had reached the peak of the catastrophe realm. The depths were even more terrifying. Even an ordinary fire-type big goblin would be burned alive if they came here. Only a big goblin that had grown up here and adapted to the power of the flames could move freely in the fiery purgatory. Most importantly, the big goblin here knew everything about the environment. About half an incense stick's time. Tut tut tut. The crack layer caused a violent impact. A crimson, baby-like monster was lying on the ground. It stuck out a burning tongue that was more than 10 feet long. It was lying in the flames, searching for life and blood aura. Smack! All of a sudden, the flaming monster seemed to have sensed the vitality left behind by Su Fang. It swung its chubby body and dashed out at an extremely fast speed. Just as he rose into the air, Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda came crashing down from the flames. Wu the peerless treasure came too suddenly, catching the flame-tongued big goblin by surprise. It immediately fell into the ambush and was knocked to the ground. Swoosh, the primordial chaos sacred land appeared in Su Fang's hand and shot out a familiar red light. While the fire-tongued monster was struggling, it was enveloped by the red light before it could fall to the ground. Su Fang immediately formed a seal, and the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda took the opportunity to suck the big goblin into the pagoda door. Su Fang also returned to the Xianhuang space. Flame-tongued monster! The Zhu Emperor, who had received the order, suddenly recognized the big goblin's identity when the big goblin that had just been sucked into the space appeared. The fire-tongued monster trembled as it stood up. Its tongue of fire was like a flaming snake swimming in the air. Where are you from, big goblin? Su Fang flashed over. This is my treasure space. Fire-tongued monster, I want you to help me enter the secret prison built by the Xinyuan Empire in the depths of this place. You're the one who sneaked an attack on me, human. The fire-tongued monster glared at Su Fang angrily. Suppress. How could Su Fang spare it for being so presumptuous? With a thought, the oppressive force of the space silently surged toward the fire-tongued monster. With a loud bang, the fire-tongued monster was squeezed into the air. Many of its bones were broken. Su Fang said disdainfully, "It's easy for me to kill you. Now, you can only accept your fate. Okay, I'll take you there, but you have to promise me that after I help you, you must let me out and give me my freedom." He didn't expect to talk about conditions. 5 poisons, true qi. There was no need to talk nonsense. After the explosion of his thought, all kinds of poisonous substances surged out. The fire-tongued monster was unable to resist and was attacked by the poisonous gas. The big goblin quickly turned into a big insect. In the end, the fire-tongued monster compromised and submitted. Su Fang was already familiar with all of this. It was not like when he had just suppressed a small commander and was excited for a while. He asked coldly, "How far away is the secret prison built by the Xinyuan Empire?" "Master, the forbidden area is in the depths of 5 kilometers around here. It's the place with the highest temperature in the inferno purgatory. Everything there is turned into lava." The fire-tongued monster answered truthfully. "Tell me the general situation of the prison." That prison was built by the Xinyuan Empire as early as hundreds of thousands of years ago. The creator was the founder of the Xinyuan Empire and the current realm master of the Xinyuan planet. Only his origin control divine ability can easily transfer a part of the Inferno Purgatory's otherworldly flames. Otherwise, even the cultivators in the Tribulation Realm and the Big Goblin would be incinerated in an instant. The Realm Master of the Xinyuan planet did not move all of the otherworldly flames away. Instead, he refined a part of it into a barrier through his great divine ability, which is the current prison. The Realm Master of the Xinyuan planet. He never expected that this natural barrier was related to the Supreme Realm Master. The fire-tongued monster continued to reveal more secrets. I only heard about it from the older generation of Big Goblin. Now, there are hundreds of people in that prison. They are all powerful people, but most of them have been crippled of their cultivation and are tortured in the Inferno Purgatory every day. Their lives are worse than death. The most infuriating thing is that the Xinyuan Empire issued an order to all the Big Goblin in the Inferno Purgatory and asked us to serve them as guards inside and outside the prison. That's better. Won't it be easier for you to bring me in later? After Su Fong roughly understood, he asked again, is there a place in the prison where the flames are the fiercest? There is. It's a part of the Inferno left by the Realm Master of the Xinyuan planet. It has been refined into 81 Inferno rune talismans and is embedded in the deepest part of the prison. They're used to kill people. As long as the Xinyuan Empire wants to kill someone, they will first be locked in the prison and have their cultivation crippled. Then, they will be tortured for countless years. After the Xinyuan Empire has achieved their goal, they will be thrown into the Inferno rune talismans and burned to death. Is there anyone guarding the Inferno rune talismans? No. Is there even a need to guard that place? The experts of the Xinyuan Empire and us Big Goblin are not willing to go near it. It is really terrifying. That is the natural peak power of the Xinyuan world. It is beyond the range that humans can resist, unless they have the strength of an immortal. I heard that the Realm Master of the Xinyuan Empire had become an immortal and obtained the Tao before he began to rebuild the Xinyuan Empire. The Inferno Purgatory is one of them. Can you enter the Inferno rune talismans easily? As long as you pass through a few layers of barriers and enter the prison, you can easily go there. The prison is guarded by the experts of the Xinyuan Empire and many Big Goblin experts. Only the path to the Inferno rune talismans is free of guards and defenses. Who would want to go there to look for trouble? Apart from the Inferno rune talismans, are there any treasures in the prison or in the Inferno Purgatory? The treasures have long been seized by the Realm Master of the Xinyuan Empire. However, apart from the Inferno rune talismans, the experts of the Xinyuan Empire work together to refine a fire element royal grade celestial device from the fire vein formed in the Inferno Purgatory. It is used as the formation eye to make it easier for the experts of the Xinyuan Empire to control the temperature of the flames around the prison. Otherwise, the experts of the Xinyuan Empire would not be able to come down at will in such a forbidden place. If you help me enter the Inferno rune talismans, I can seize that fire element royal grade celestial device and give it to you as a reward. Really? I always keep my word. If I am a backstabber, you will not be able to live so comfortably. It's a deal. I will help you enter the Inferno rune talismans. However, once you enter that place, you will either die or be seriously injured. Moreover, if you make a big noise, you will be surrounded by experts. Don't worry about this. I just want to borrow the Inferno rune talismans to refine a treasure. I will not foolishly enter that world of flames with my physical body. Su Fong did not treat the fire-tongued monster forcefully. Instead, he treated it with kindness and authority. The effect was very good. At least before, the fire-tongued monster was forced to do things for Su Fong. However, now that he heard that there was a chance to obtain a royal-grade fire element magic treasure, he was already beaming with joy. Moreover, he immediately began to act. After Su Fong refined it, he left the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda and lay in the flames. With a sweep of the flame tongue, Su Fong and the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda entered his stomach. In this way, the fire-tongued monster also became the 93rd commander of the mysterious yellow space. When I reach the Inferno rune talismans, I will also upgrade the quality of the Flaming Cloud's spiritual gourd, the Fire God Elephant, the 13 Fire Crystal Stone Men, and the mysterious yellow space. Settle down. Su Fong displayed his great perfection ability in the fire-tongued monster's stomach. As the fire-tongued monster absorbed, he saw and heard the rustling sound of the flames passing through. It only took 2 hours. Through the cracks in the ground and through some inconspicuous karst caves, the fire-tongued monster immediately brought Su Fong to a karst cave that looked like a cloud of fire. The cloud of fire was not ordinary at first glance. It was obvious that there was a formation and shackle aura coming from it. Not only that, he also sensed the aura of more than 10 big goblin breathing at the edge of the karst cave. They must be the big goblin that worked for the Xinyuan Empire. It could not be helped. Under the rule of the powerful Xinyuan Empire, the big goblin had also become a watchdog. The fire-tongued monster stuck out its tongue and sensed in the flames. After a while, it flashed, jumped, and passed through the flames from different directions. Finally, it came to the karst cave and floated in front of the fire cloud restriction. Master, don't worry. We have the aura of the barrier planet on our bodies. The Xinyuan Empire can give us orders and let us enter the barrier at will. However, we cannot enter the prison of the human powerhouses that are imprisoned. Whoosh, the fire-tongued monster began to enter the fire cloud barrier and pass through layers of formations. After more than 10 layers of powerful formations, it was the interior of the karst cave. Some hot rocks could be seen, and below them was magma. The temperature here made the fire-tongued monster's heart beat faster. As for Su Fong, it seemed that they had returned to the magma world in the underground abyss. The aura of the magma here was only slightly weaker than that of the magma world. It was enough to burn any catastrophe powerhouse. The fire-tongued monster's ability was also revealed. It actually jumped into the magma. Although its skin was burning and smoking, it moved forward bit by bit and swam in the magma. Su Fong sensed more than 10 powerful wills gathered around this forbidden area. Gradually, they passed through the karst cave and came to a new large karst cave space. They immediately saw a small mountain floating in the magma and flames. The fire-tongued monster whispered, "Master, the center is the prison where the powerhouses are imprisoned. The heavenly fire rune talisman is in an active volcano behind it. Don't make any noise. Let's go directly to the heavenly fire rune talisman." In addition to sensing the powerhouses, Su Fong also sensed a terrifying, scorching aura behind the small mountain. It should be the heavenly fire rune talisman. The fire-tongued monster slowly moved forward in the magma. It finally passed through the small mountain and saw a volcano in the depths of the magma. The volcano was not shocking, but the aura from the volcano's crater was extremely terrifying. Moreover, Su Fong did not sense the aura of the big goblin or cultivators around the volcano. The fire-tongued monster was right. There was no one guarding the heavenly fire rune talisman. The primordial god realm master did not expect that among the countless weak cultivators in this small world, someone would deliberately find this place and use the heavenly fire rune talisman that he used to kill people to melt magic treasures. If they thought of this, they would definitely send powerhouses to guard it. Chapter 5:26. The closer they got to the volcano that was mostly soaked in magma, the scorching temperature almost passed through the flaming tongue monster's body and directly into Su Fong's skin. Terrifying. Too terrifying. Not to mention the power of the heavenly fire rune, the temperature of the magma, and the volcano itself was enough to kill any catastrophe powerhouse. Master, this is the aura of this place. In about 5 years, the cracks in the Xianhuang will be completely healed. Furthermore, you can use the runes here to perfectly fuse with the Xianhuang and make it your life treasure. Then what do I need to prepare? You need a lot of spirit stones, gems, and even spirit veins. These are all small problems. Xianhuang's 6 Paths Pagoda was very excited. They finally arrived at the volcano. The flaming tongue monster's feet landed on the hot rocks of the volcano and immediately emitted a sizzling flame. What a terrifying temperature. The flaming tongue monster was also scared and did not dare to approach the volcano anymore. Come in. With an order, the flaming tongue monster disappeared, and Xianhuang, 6 Paths Pagoda appeared. It was only the size of a finger, and no powerhouse could see it. Xianwang's Six Paths Pagoda was very curious, and Su Fang was also very excited. When they came to the volcano, the flames below were a threat to Su Fang's life. But for Xianwang's Six Paths Pagoda, it was a power that it had long desired. Which cultivator in the mortal world could restore it to its peak? Humans cannot do it, only nature. Inside the volcano, in front of Su Fang was the fiercely burning flames, and below was the boiling magma. And in the magma, there was a semicircular barrier floating. There were crimson runes above the barrier. Heavenly Fire Rune 81 Heavenly Fire Rune runes formed a circular rune barrier. According to the Flaming Tongue monster, when the Xinyuan Empire wanted to kill someone, they would activate the seal and throw the person down the volcano into the Heavenly Fire Rune. They would be imprisoned inside and burned to death. The 81 Heavenly Fire Rune runes were refined by the primordial god Realm Lord. One could imagine how powerful they were and how strong the rune barrier was. The experts who were thrown down were not only sealed, but their cultivation was also crippled. They could only wait for death, and in the end, they would not live for more than a few days. Fortunately, the Heavenly Fire Rune Talisman didn't have any special barriers, so it could be entered at will. Xianwang's Six Paths Pagoda stopped. Below them was the Heavenly Fire Rune Talisman. Master, this subordinate wants to refine the origin essence, as well as the mysterious yellow stone, origin jade stone, gold and silver. Once all the materials are refined, this subordinate will begin to absorb them. At that time, the space will be filled with burning energy. Master will have to move with the young commander. Then I will bring everyone into the true Devil Blood Plate. This is very important. Activating the true Devil Blood Plate, Zhu Huang, Junior Commander, Gu Shijin, and Bai Ling all disappeared. Su Fang also entered the true Devil Blood Plate. After fusing with it, he and Xianwang's Six Paths Pagoda entered the boundary of the Heavenly Fire Pattern Talisman. At this moment, Su Fang felt as if he had returned to the magma of the Earth's core. The temperature of the Heavenly Fire Pattern Talisman had actually reached the temperature of the magma of the Earth's core. It was truly shocking. It seemed like it was an external flame. Otherwise, how could the flames on the surface of the Earth have such a temperature? Xianwang's Six Paths Pagoda was eager to try. With a thought from Su Fang, the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd, Fire God Elephant, and the 13 Fire Crystal Golems rushed out. They flew out of Xianwang's Six Paths Pagoda and directly entered the rune formation. Creek. The quality of these treasures was not as good as Xianwang's Six Paths Pagoda. They were still far from it. They were only high-grade treasures. They would be incinerated if they came here. Fortunately, the Flaming Cloud, Spiritual Gourd, Fire God Elephant, and Fire Crystal Golems were not ordinary treasures. They were just enough to withstand the power of the Heavenly Fire Pattern Talisman. The 13 Fire Crystal Golems were the fastest to transform. Under the burning flames, the Fire Crystal Golems were almost in a state of combustion. Sparks were produced from time to time, and the impurities in their bodies began to burn. The Fire God Elephant, on the other hand, was very slow. It took a while for it to transform. It was almost burning itself. Its surface seemed to turn into magma. As for the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd, it was not an ordinary treasure. It was a spiritual item that was a combination of life force and fire elemental power. It had its own consciousness. Fortunately, there was still the origin stone flower that had not been refined. The Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd could not withstand such high temperatures. After a while, it also burst into sparks. The weak primordial spirit inside absorbed some of the flames and began to burn the origin stone flower. If this continued, the origin stone flower would completely fuse with the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd. In order to increase the quality of the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd, Jiang, he had made full use of this rare opportunity that he had exchanged with his life and death. Origin stone flower, he had to think of a way to refine the origin stone. The 81 Heavenly Fire Pattern Talismans were the best opportunity. The origin stone came from the Zhua Tian realm. It was the Zhua Tian realm's origin. It could provide the flaming cloud spiritual gourd with a shocking amount of origin power. On the other hand, the Sufang could also fuse with the origin stone. Moreover, I can also use the heavenly fire pattern talismans to further fuse with the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. Jiang Yi thought about what else he needed to improve. He thought about the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. He had come to the immortal primordial domain and the divine origin planet to obtain the human emperor's realm lord. Although he was currently fusing with the human emperor's bright wheel fragment, he did not know when he would be able to fuse it perfectly. He should have an idea now. He took out the origin stone. It appeared in the heavenly fire pattern talisman. The fire burned mercilessly. The origin chi of the realm seemed to have encountered a spark. The fire burned even more fiercely. Sufang also took out the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. In this dangerous place deep in the fire, the experts of the Xinyuan Empire also sensed it. In this way, the flaming cloud spiritual gourd, the fire god elephant, the 13 fire crystal golems, the origin stone, and the human emperor's bright wolf fragment were all being refined. Now it was the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda's turn. The pagoda shadow it spat out contained the origin jade stone, the mysterious yellow stone, the gold silver, and the origin essence. When the pagoda shadow appeared, the four treasures were immediately burned by the flames in the heavenly fire pattern talisman. The pagoda shadow was the power of the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. This way, the aura of the four treasures could be completely absorbed into the mysterious yellow's body. As for the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, it began to grow to a size of 10 feet. The 6 layers of gold and silver looked very sacred. Some insignificant cracks could be seen in some parts of the pagoda. The cracks had lost their luster. The Six Paths Pagoda opened the doors of each layer and crazily absorbed the power of the flames. The pagoda itself was also burning in the flames. Mysterious Yellow said, "Master, you don't have to divert your attention to Mysterious Yellow. You should also take the opportunity to cultivate. Seize this rare opportunity." Sufang, who was in the true demon blood plate, no longer worried about the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda after hearing it. "Master," another magic treasure's origin spirit appeared in Sufang's divine aperture. Divine image Jade Annulus Yu-Er's origin spirit said, "Yu-Er is a Tao artifact. In such a place, it won't be affected at all. Master, don't forget about Yu-Er's existence." Oh, sorry. That's right. How could he forget about the divine image Jade Annulus? After settling for a while, it immediately merged with the divine image Jade Annulus. After being supported by the Tao artifact's divine power, Sufang directly flew out of the true demon blood plate and appeared in the flames of the heavenly fire rune talisman with his physical body. A miraculous scene occurred. The terrifying flames of the heavenly fire rune talisman did not even produce a spark on Sufang's body. It was as if the heavenly fire rune talisman was an ordinary natural flame to him. It was not threatening at all. It was not powerful at all. This was the result of merging with the divine image Jade Annulus. Under the protection of the divine image Jade Annulus, Sufang's overall defense had surpassed the life forms of a small world. Master, with Yu-Er, you can move freely in this world of flames. The heavenly fire rune talisman won't be able to hurt you at all. Those human cultivators outside are just ants in front of Yu-Er. Back then, spiritual dragon Zhang Tian was able to survive in the dangerous world when he first entered it because he had a desolate body and merged with Yu-Er. Compared to the big world, this land of flames is just a child's play. Hee hee. Thank you, Yu-Er. How about this? I'll let the junior commanders enter your space. You can absorb the essence of the flames and give it to them for cultivation. This time, Sufang was completely relieved. Zhu Huang, Bai Ling, Gu Shizhen, and the junior commanders were transferred from the true demon blood plate into the divine image Jade Annulus space. The Tao artifact world was enough to give them a majestic power. As for Sufang, he was wholeheartedly immersed in the flames. He looked at the treasures excitedly. He was not worried about the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. He began to absorb the origin yuan stone that was being refined and released his own aura to merge with the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel in the flames. When absorbing the origin yuan stone, it was equivalent to absorbing a part of the essence of the flames. Su Fong felt that his body was constantly being impacted. He immediately activated the 9 transformations and circulated all the vital qi in his body. Soon, he perfectly merged the power of the origin yuan stone. Power. Other than power, there was only power. During this period, there would be occasional tremors in the depths of the volcano. Su Fong was worried that it would cause a disturbance. But now, he knew that volcanoes were naturally moving. This formed a perfect cover. If any movements were sensed by the experts, they would just think that it was the internal movement of the volcano. Several months passed. The melting speed of the origin yuan stone had increased significantly. It rose like steam and was absorbed by Su Fong. The other treasures were also in the process of transforming. He looked at the pagoda phantom on the side. Most of the profound yellow stone, origin jade, and gold and silver had been refined. As for the origin yuan essence, it had only been refined by 1%. The speed was also increasing. He estimated that after a year, the refining speed would increase by several times. The longer it took, the faster the refining speed would be. Looking at the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda, it was covered in layers of flames. There were roughly 6 layers of flames. Many mysterious formations were constantly seeping out from the surface. As expected, the speed of my fusion with the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel is increasing. Su Fong paid attention to the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. Once he perfectly fused with the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda, he would start thinking of ways to obtain the inheritance of the human emperor world's realm lord. Qi. At this moment, a strand of tribulation qi exploded in his body. Bang! Using the 100 acupoints finger art, his body began to explode. Tribulation qi rushed out and set off a wave of fire in the volcano. The 6 layers of astral qi resonated with the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. Young Infant Stage 6. It turned out that he had broken through. It came a bit suddenly, but it was within his expectations. However, his attention was still on the treasures. The young infant in his divine aperture was immersed in the boundless sea of dermic powers. It was peeling off countless young infant phantoms and transforming into a young infant full of Su Fong. The young infant was slightly bigger. Some mysterious true runes appeared on its body. It had a mysterious fusion power, allowing the young infant to quickly merge with the main body. Su Fong was excited. The young infant is even stronger. It is gradually forming a defense. The young infant is originally an illusory primordial spirit. However, as the young infant realm cultivates and breaks through, the young infant will eventually form a self-defense. It is not like an egg that will break with a touch. He cut open a wound on his body and planted immortal fruit slices. Then he swallowed the Icebound King's immortal blood and high-grade marrow cleansing elixirs. With the power of advancement, the power of the origin essence stone, and the special aura of the flames, Su Fong felt like he was in a furnace of energy. Every second, every minute, he was getting stronger. Chapter 5:27. Great fortuitous encounter. Su Fong even felt that he was surrounded by providence. He could almost feel the existence of providence. If he didn't have such providence, he wouldn't have such an opportunity. Even so, Su Fong could see the difference from another perspective. For most people, the Heavenly Fire rune wasn't an opportunity, but death. When he met the Heavenly Fire rune talisman, he stole the Heavenly Fire rune talisman and used its advantages to merge with his own shortcomings. That was why this providence had been created. 1/3 of the origin source stone had been absorbed. The steam that was constantly melting was the origin source of the Zhuotian realm. It was absorbed by Su Fong, releasing it into his body. In addition, he already had the origin source energy in his body, so it was very easy for his body to absorb it. Su Fang also absorbed the icebound king's blood and the immortal fruit to help his cultivation. In this way, the essence of the origin source stone was instantly refined by Su Fang, sinking into the depths of his body. His bones, blood, and muscles were all absorbed. The flaming cloud spirit gourd had already refined the stone flower. Many natural fire patterns appeared on the surface of the spirit gourd, one layer after another. The flaming cloud spirit gourd's current level had surpassed most of the spirit gourds in the Zhouetian realm. It wasn't easy for even a sect to achieve such an origin source. Its quality was also about to break through to the royal grade. Su Fang took out a large number of high-grade spirit stones, all of which were supreme grade. He also took out gems to upgrade the flaming cloud spirit gourd's quality. The fire god elephant's powerful aura was constantly spewing out burning aura from its trunk. It seemed that it was about to break through to the royal grade. The 13 fire crystal golems were also upgrading very quickly. The golems were getting closer and closer to becoming red and transparent. Qi. Suddenly, a wave of tribulation qi exploded from Su Fang's body. I'm going to break through to the 7th stage of the yang nascent soul realm. Su Fang quickly focused on himself. He activated the 9 transformations and used the 100 acupoints finger art to check his body's condition. As expected, he was full of energy, reaching the peak of the 6th stage of the yang nascent soul realm. Furthermore, the yang nascent soul, in his divine aperture, was following the heavenly demon disintegration seal. It carried some demonic qi, which was constantly peeling and merging. Too unbelievable. His yang nascent soul was far more powerful than a yang nascent soul cultivator. With such numbers and speed, he could instantly kill any yang nascent soul cultivator. Taking advantage of the fact that he was about to break through to the 7th stage of the yang infant realm, Su Fang sped up the activation of the heavenly demon disintegration seal. At the same time, the 100 acupoints finger technique in his body began to attack again and again. Pa-boom! The finger technique unlocked the seal on his body. Instantly, like a ferocious beast, it rushed out of its cage and formed a destructive gang qi around Su Fang. His stellar energy had formed 7 layers, and he was now at the 7th stage of the yang infant realm. A large amount of impurities in the placenta were dispersed, and his skin was also in a state of tearing. His physical body was damaged because of the breakthrough, but the power of promotion exploded quickly. Coupled with the power of the origin primordial stone, the dragon-taming wood, and the black lotus true body, the broken physical body was instantly restored. The dragon-taming wood had already fused perfectly with his left arm, fusing with his meridians, muscles, and blood. The power of the dragon-taming wood had also begun to extend into the depths of Su Fang's body. The changes in the black lotus true body were very obvious. The blood vessels in his body interweaved into a dense network, fusing together his flesh, meridians, and bones. The blood vessels also began to grow from thin to thicker. If he continued to break through, the blood vessels in the future might become as strong as his meridians, which would be even more terrifying than his meridians. If all the blood vessels in his body were the size of his meridians, then Su Fang's cultivation speed and capacity for his true qi would become incomparably terrifying. At this moment, his physical body's recovery ability was simply monstrous. Even the big goblin would be surpassed by him. In a few days, the power of promotion disappeared, and Su Fang reached the 7th stage of the yang infant realm. He was in a perfect state, and he did not lack energy. Coupled with the power of the flames, he could use it to attack his physical body. With the divine image, Jade, Annulus resolving the threat, Su Fang was constantly cultivating. I've also refined half of the origin essence. It's only 3 feet tall now. 2 years have passed, so I'll definitely finish refining it in a few years. Next, he paid attention to the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. First, he paid attention to the origin essence. After all, his main goal this time was to refine the origin essence, and the results were pleasantly surprised and satisfied. More than half of the origin essence had been refined. If this continued, It might be melted by the heavenly fire rune in less than 5 years. As for the profound yellow stone, origin jade stone, and gold and silver, they had already melted into a ball of spiritual liquid. Su Fang took out a large number of supreme-grade spirit stones, and even higher-grade spirit stones and gems, and put them into the pagoda shadow to be refined together. Next, he looked at the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. The 6-story pagoda was burning with flames, and it looked as if it was about to melt. Countless true runes spun and burned crazily. This was the first time he saw this side of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda excitedly reported, "Master, Xianhuang has already used the heavenly fire rune's firepower to melt most of the cracks. It will be completely melted soon. At that time, it will be fused with the origin essence, Xianhuang stone, origin jade, gold, silver, and spirit stones. Then it will completely merge with Xianhuang and return to its peak quality. There's no need to rush. If 5 years isn't enough, then 10 years. In short, we must succeed this time." Su Fang gritted his teeth. He had to be strong. Relying on other Dharma treasures was not as effective as the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Not only could it suppress countless junior commanders, but it had also become a life-bound Dharma treasure. Su Fang's body had the magic of a Dharma treasure. When he used it, he could withstand the terrifying attacks of Xianhuang. In other words, once it was perfectly fused with the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, even if the elders attacked Su Fang, his body would not be injured. This was the difference between a life-bound Dharma treasure and a Dharma treasure. In the world, there were far too few cultivators who could refine a life-bound Dharma treasure. Each one of them was a genius among geniuses. Su Fang's cultivation base was insufficient, but if he had a life-bound Dharma treasure, it would make up for it. The fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. As he grew stronger and advanced, a portion of his power was also being released. The power that surged out of his body naturally flowed toward the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. And the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel that was burning in the fire was absorbing Su Fang's power, as well as the world energy of the origin stone. The world's origin inside was slowly recovering. I've fused almost 80% of it, and I'm about to perfectly fuse with this fragment. As long as I can fuse with this fragment, I can easily fuse with the other fragments in the future. The human emperor's bright wheel is mine, and so is the human emperor world. If the Doi Qi and the Xinyuan Empire want to fight with me, then I'll destroy the Doi Qi and the Xinyuan Empire. Imperceptibly, the king's qi that came from cultivating the 9 yang, 9 transformations, suddenly exploded from his eyes. What kind of divine power was this? It actually made the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel tremble, as if it sensed some danger. Because of this, the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel absorbed Su Fang's power, which doubled the amount. This made the fusion time even shorter. What happened just now? Su Fang clearly felt that the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel had suddenly fused a step closer, and he didn't know what had happened. He continued to use the 100 acupoints finger technique, melted the blood on his body, planted the immortal fruit slices, and absorbed the blood of the King of Frost, as well as the marrow cleansing pill and the flower of immortality. So many resources were being melted step by step. Su Fang was like a glutton. He could eat any resource, and it wasn't enough. The extreme Yin Ice Vein is the tomb of the great ape demon. It's a peerless treasure. If I have the extreme Yin Ice Vein, my cultivation speed will definitely increase by several times. He thought of the extreme Yin Ice Vein. At this moment, Xianhuang transmitted a message. "Master, maybe the spirit stones are not enough. You still need a spirit vein." That's not a problem. He took out a spirit vein from his bag and placed it into the pagoda. It melted with the spirit stones, and a bit of his core essence melted as well. "Master, the violet Qi Law spirit has also fused quite a bit with Xianhuang. The violet Qi Law spirit is very mysterious, and it makes Xianhuang feel like it has completely fused with it. Once Xianhuang perfectly fuses with Master, it will also fuse with the violet chi lost spirit. At that time, we might be able to figure out what kind of treasure the violet chi lost spirit is. In truth, I also don't know what kind of treasure the violet chi lost spirit is. It can sense the aura of magic treasures and absorb their energy. Right now, I'm still unable to use it. This is definitely a peerless treasure from a great world. It's extremely extraordinary. Most importantly, it's incomplete. Only when Master obtains the third part of the violet chi law spirit from Sheng Changsheng will you truly have the violet chi law spirit. At that time, you'll be able to figure out what kind of treasure it is. Obtaining the third part of the violet chi law spirit won't be easy. Sheng Changsheng is hiding his strength. Of the three supreme disciples, he's the one I don't understand the least. Isn't there exalted Ekizan? I'll know in the future. No matter what happens, Sheng Changsheng is going to give me the violet chi law spirit. What belongs to me can't be taken away. Su Fang once again focused on his cultivation. The sparks from the flame cloud spirit gourd, the flame cloud god mammoth, and the flame cloud golem were shocking, and as time passed, they would soon become royal gray Dao items. Hissus. All of a sudden, an enormous monster of yang energy seemed to awaken within him. Su Fang stopped and looked down to see that it was a sixth yang meridian. Shockingly, it was perfectly formed, the same color as the previous five. Finally, the sixth yang meridian was complete. The jade-like yang meridian pulsed with pure, 9 yang true energy, which was the foundation for cultivating the 9 transformations of the 9 suns. Only by forming all of the yang meridians could one truly cultivate the 9 transformations of the 9 suns, which was the foundation of the godly class energy art. Now that he had 6 yang meridians, his strength had doubled once more. With 6 yang meridians, he had 6 times the strength of a normal cultivator. Just from this point alone, Su Fang's true chi was 6 times that of someone in the same realm. Add in the 9 yang true energy, the violet chi law spirit, the golden essence core, and the dragon subduing wood, and he had dozens of times as much power as someone of the same cultivation level. Su Fang began to draw on his 6 yang meridians, using all of his yang energy to push his 6th meridian to completion. Then he began to push his 7th meridian. He chose an ordinary meridian and began to channel all of his yang energy into it. At the same time, he began to run out of true energy. Most of the energy was being absorbed by his 6th meridian. Once again, he sliced open his fleshly body and planted some immortal fruits. He still had some immortal fruits and the blood of King Icebound. However, as more and more junior magistrates came along, his cultivation would become more and more difficult. Eventually, he would run out of those 2 sources of power. He needed to find more immortal class power. Thanks to his efforts, his 7th meridian began to return to normal. Much of his energy had recovered. I broke through to the 7th stage of the Yang Soul stage, and my 6th Yang meridian is complete. The power of the Heaven Fire Tattoo is fire type, which is perfect for the 9 transformations of the 9 suns. It seems I took a big risk this time. If I had been afraid of the Xinyuan Empire, I wouldn't have been able to transform. However, the Heaven Fire Tattoo's scorching aura isn't as intense as before. I wonder if it's because I've gotten stronger, or if it's because I've tempered so many magical treasures that the 81 tattoo talismans have weakened. Su Fang found another problem popping up abruptly. Author's note: I wish all of you good luck with your exams. Chapter 528. He sensed that the temperature inside the Heavenly Fire Tattoo symbol seemed to stop at its current burning state. It should be scarier. After all, this was a peerless power condensed countless years ago by a realm lord. Whatever. He continued to perform the 100 acupoints finger technique while cultivating the Heavenly Devil Disintegration Seal. His body also maintained the fusion with the fragment of the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel. Then, he looked at the other magic treasures. The fire crystal golem's body had shrunk by half, but its aura was countless times stronger than before. Then, a series of crackling sounds could be heard, as if some magic treasure was breaking apart. Right next to the fire crystal golem. So it was the fire god elephant. The fire god elephant, which was being burned by the high temperature, looked like it was about to shatter. But in reality, as the pieces fell off, the fire god elephant grade was rising from high grade to king grade. The flaming cloud spiritual gourd had also become transparent. However, this transparency had fused with a large number of life networks and granular crystals. Because the flaming cloud spiritual gourd was a spiritual item, it had a life of its own and contained special blood. What made Su Fong happy was that the fire cloud spirit gourd was also in the process of transforming into a king-grade magic treasure. The origin of the Zhuotian realm inside was roaring, and Su Fong had been constantly fusing with it and injecting yang energy into it over the years, causing the fire cloud spirit gourd to grow at an astonishing rate. Only 100 years had passed, and the middle-grade flaming cloud spiritual gourd that he had taken from Qing Rulong had started to advance to king grade. The fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel are about to fuse perfectly, just a little bit more. All the magic treasures were undergoing astonishing changes. Looking at the origin essence again, the pagoda mirage was filled with spirit liquid formed from various treasures. Only the origin essence was about a foot tall and had yet to be refined. Another year passed. Su Fong's body suddenly emitted a beam of tribulation energy. He immediately activated the 100 acupoints finger technique to check on his physical body. It turned out that after a year of cultivation, he had reached the peak of the 7th stage of the Yang infant realm. The 6 Yang meridians in his body were filled with pure Yang true Qi. The defensive armor on the Yang infant in the divine aperture was even more obvious. After consuming a large amount of resources, he began to strengthen his physical body. After a while, as the seal was undone, Xiao Chen's physical body rumbled, shaking his physical body so much that it seemed like it would shatter. The 7 layers of stellar energy turned into 8 layers. It was clearly the aura of a Yang nascent soul, which was also at the 8th level. 8th stage of the Yang infant realm. His cultivation had risen from the 7th stage to the 8th stage of the Yang nascent soul. When he looked at his Yang nascent soul carefully, he noticed that the armor was also divided into 8 layers. When I broke through the 5th, 6th, and 7th layers, I didn't sense any obvious stellar energy. Who would have thought that after breaking through to the 8th layer, I would sense it? This means that after breaking through to the 8th layer, my Yang infant has reached a new height. His physical body began to shatter under the impact of the promotion force. Impurities kept seeping out of his body, grain by grain. His body felt like it was being torn apart. However, the ability of the Black Lotus True Body, coupled with the dragon-taming wood, finally allowed Su Fong's perfect recovery ability of his body to be displayed perfectly. As soon as it shattered, the blood threads, Yang energy, and life force began to tremble, fuse, and boil. If I had not cultivated my physical body to perfection when I was young, I would not have been able to truly control the dragon-taming wood and the Black Lotus True Body. The 7-star child must have spent most of his life refining the Black Lotus True Body. If it could be easily fused, his second Yang infant would have already given birth to his second physical body. Unfortunately, he had been on the 7-star Demon Island for so many years, but he had not been able to do so. However, I was able to fuse it in such a short time. The biggest reason, aside from the 9 Yang True Qi, is that my physical body has reached perfection. Cultivation is boundless. The physical body is the ocean, the world. How big is the world? How much power can it contain? After meditating, the promotion force also disappeared. The physical body of the 8th stage of the Yang nascent soul, whether it was the Yang infant, meridians, or bones, they had all undergone an obvious transformation. The blood threads in his body had completely penetrated into the depths of most of his bones. The ability of the Black Lotus True Body was like a large net, wrapping Su Fong inside and out. If a sword were to strike his body, not only would he have the flesh fetus divine armor, but the blood threads of the Black Lotus True Body would also resist the power of the sword Qi. Most importantly, the self-healing ability of the blood threads could heal his wounds in a short time. He could cut open a wound and plant immortal fruit slices, or even pills. After taking a drop of the icebound king's blood, a large amount of energy rushed into his body. The icebound king's blood, a drop of pure blood, no longer has the same effect on me as before. If this continues, the consumption of the icebound king's blood will double. It won't take long. The wound quickly healed. When the Great Circle ability was used, his muscles seemed to twist for a while. The power condensed, and then suddenly exploded, forming an impact force that merged the energy that seeped into his skin and flesh. When he reached the 8th stage of the young, nascent soul realm, he looked at the flaming cloud spirit gourd again. It had successfully become a royal gray Dharma artifact. It was smaller, but more transparent. There were countless life spaces inside. It felt like the flaming cloud spirit gourd was formed by a large amount of life particles. The flaming cloud spirit gourd's consciousness had also undergone an astonishing transformation. It was just that the time was too short, and it would probably take a long time. Under the premise of the royal grade, the primordial spirit needed a period of time to grow on its own. Only then could it become a mature primordial spirit like Rakshasa and Xianwang. Although the origin of the Zhuotian realm inside the flaming cloud spirit gourd was not as shocking as the origin Yuan stone, the flaming cloud spirit gourd was probably one of the best among the many spirit gourds in the Zhuotian realm. In fact, the flaming cloud spirit gourd had already become an origin of the Zhuotian realm. It just needed a certain amount of time to cultivate. He looked at the fire god elephant again. It had also transformed into a royal gray Dharma artifact. Its primordial spirit was even more mature than the flaming cloud spirit gourd. It moved according to Su Fang's thoughts. The internal space of the fire god elephant had also increased by several times. Its fire elemental ability was astonishing. The flames it spat out were almost as hot as the heavenly fire pattern talisman. The 13 fire crystal stone men had already reached the peak of the upper gray Dharma artifact. It was estimated that they would not be able to break through to the royal grade in a short time. Su Fang took out a spirit vein and directly tempered it with fire above the Dharma artifacts. After refining it, it turned into spiritual liquid and was absorbed by the Dharma artifacts one by one. To become a royal gray Dharma artifact, it needed more spiritual liquid to water it and reconstruct the Dharma body. He also took out some sturdy gems. No matter how sturdy the gems were, they would also melt into spiritual liquid under the heavenly fire pattern talisman. During this period, the spirit vein and some gems began to melt and the impurities faded away. The remaining spiritual liquid was actively absorbed by the flaming cloud spirit gourd, the fire god elephant, and finally the 13 fire crystal golems. There were countless Dharma artifacts in his body. The Dharma artifacts that were helpful to Su Fang and could be used were currently in the process of being improved. Fortunately, he had been under the protection of the divine image Jade Annulus. Otherwise, not to mention refining many Dharma artifacts and improving his cultivation, he would have long been burned to death here. Even if he could hide in the true demon blood plate, if he wanted to cultivate as he wished and improve the quality of many Dharma artifacts, the effect would be less than 1/3 of what it was now. Another year passed. Suddenly, the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel that was floating in front of Su Fang, wrapped in the yang power and burning in the flames, suddenly released a dazzling xianguang that contained the qi of the world. It's completely merged. Su Fang's eyes were filled with excitement and tears because at this moment, he had finally merged perfectly with the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. Sensing it, he found that the aura of the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel was mostly similar to his own aura, especially the aura of some purple chi dharma spirits. Strange. Sensing it carefully, the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel did indeed have a certain amount of purple chi dharma spirits aura. This made Su Fang immediately understand. It seems that the purple chi dharma spirits played a part in me being able to merge with the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. Its wonders made the Dharma artifacts acknowledge its divine might, and it also allowed the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel to be recognized, making it easier to merge with me. Now, let's take a look at all the array spaces in the fragment. He peeled off a young nascent soul and poured it into the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. Immediately, a large number of arrays appeared. Although they were incomplete, they could still stop any catastrophe realm cultivator. The arrays were very familiar, and they also had the astonishing aura of the human emperor's world. After familiarizing himself with all the arrays, he suddenly saw the strange scene that he saw last time in the centermost array. At this time, it was much clearer. The scene in the depths of the array had some special engravings. In the engravings, there seemed to be a round object, but it was not a real object. It was just a restriction engraved with true text. Su Fong thought, why is there such a layer of true text restriction in the depths of the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel? It's a pity that it's incomplete and cannot be seen through. Could it be a treasure left behind by the former human emperor's world lord? Human emperor's bright wheel fragment, this treasure was not simple. Now that he thought about it, it was even more inconceivable. The celestial sealing sect could be considered a major power in the Zhuotian realm. It was also famous in the 8 small worlds. But they had spent a lot of effort to hide a fragment in Green Feather King's body and seal it. Many other powers did the same, especially the Xinyuan Empire and the Doichi Empire. In order to obtain the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel, who knew how many people they had secretly killed? How many places have been dyed red with blood? Because of this, all of this showed that the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel was not simple. Everyone wanted to become the world lord of the human emperor's world because of it. Well, I'll just plant my imprint inside the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. Su Fong began to further fuse with the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. At this time, there was only a little bit of the origin source primal stone left. It was about to be completely refined. Su Fong's body was full of the Zhuotian realm's origin source, from his blood essence to his bones, from his muscles to his meridians. In this way, the amount of Zhuotian realm's origin source he controlled was something that not even Prince Shui could compare to. In the Zhuotian realm, the number of people who could compare could be counted on one hand. Those grand elders would never be able to obtain an origin source primal stone like this in their entire lives. Zhuotian realm's world Lord Prince Shui, you refined the heavenly gourd spirit tree in order to seize the Zhuotian realm's origin source. I won't let you succeed. The world lord is also mine. Keep dreaming. Even if you have the Xinyuan Empire secretly help you, I'll make your efforts go to waste. Because the Zhuotian realm's origin source had formed an abundant amount of world energy in his body, Su Fong could refine the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel and cultivate as he pleased. Crack! Several months later, the origin source primal stone in front of Su Fong finally turned into a cloud of spiritual mist. Refined. Such an origin source primal stone had been absorbed and refined by Su Fong alone. The origin source primal stone had turned into spiritual liquid and merged with his blood and bones. From now on, even if he tried to forcefully extract it, he wouldn't be able to make the world energy leave. This is too comfortable. The origin source primal stone is already tough. Melting it into spiritual liquid has undoubtedly strengthened my bloodline. Now that I've returned to the Zhuotian realm and have the instant spatial ring left behind by the great ape devil, my speed has already reached the same level as those grand elders. Now that I've returned to the Zhuotian realm, I don't have to worry about the immortal sealing sect's face anymore. The only reason I've stayed in the immortal sealing sect is to take back the violet Qi law spirit from Sheng Changsheng. Also, I've killed Prince Shui. It's not for revenge, but because he's been wanting to become a world lord for all these years. He must have cultivated in secret and obtained quite a bit of the Zhuotian realm's origin source. Once I kill him and take his origin source, I'll be one step closer to becoming a world lord. With my current strength, I should have a 70% chance of killing Prince Shui. As for killing Sheng Changsheng, it should be about the same. It's just that I'll have to interact with him for a while to understand his background. Only then can I make a move on him. I'll take back the violet Qi law spirit without anyone noticing. What belongs to me cannot be taken away. Strength was the source of all motivation. Su Fong was bursting with confidence. Chapter 529. As long as a person had confidence, all difficulties and obstacles could not stop them from moving forward. Su Fong cultivated with all his strength, using the 100 acupoints finger technique and the 9 yang 9 changes. The mighty origin power in his body, coupled with the 9 yang genuine qi, made Su Fong's strength constantly improve. The spirit vein was also completely refined. It turned into a spiritual liquid and was absorbed by the fire cloud, spiritual gourd, and the fire god elephant. The fire cloud spiritual gourd was a supreme natural spirit treasure, a wood-type treasure, similar to the dragon-taming wood. In the future, its power would be earth-shattering, and it would become the most powerful origin treasure in the Zhuotian realm. The fire god elephant was originally used to suppress the formation in the depths of the ruins of the spirit sect. It had been a magic treasure for 30,000 years, and it had completely turned into a fire-type magic treasure under the passage of time. It was also a fire-type spirit treasure. These two magic treasures were special and would become unique existences. Since Su Fong lost his left arm and unexpectedly recovered with the dragon-taming wood, he used the dragon-taming wood's ability to fuse and cultivate the fire cloud spiritual gourd. Through the dragon-taming wood, Su Fong could inject yang power into the fire cloud spiritual gourd and could also absorb power from the spiritual gourd. This was something Su Fong could not do. The dragon taming would change everything. After a while, the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel returned to the depths of his body and was properly sealed. Soon it would come in handy. The flame of the heavenly fire pattern talisman is indeed not as strong as before. At this time, his strength and realm had undergone a great transformation. When he paid attention to the other magic treasures, he sensed the lack of temperature around him. Fortunately, the origin stone had been completely refined, and the magic treasures had also improved in quality. The only one was the Xianwang 6 Paths Pagoda. Just as he was looking at the pagoda's shadow, the last part of the origin essence suddenly shattered, and then gradually turned into spiritual liquid under the flame. Refined. Finally, it was about to be completely refined. It could be seen that the origin essence was stronger than the origin stone and was difficult to refine. The burning Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda also stared at the origin essence. Master, the heavenly fire pattern talisman has lost most of its flame power. The remaining power is just enough for Xianhuang to recover. In order to speed up, Su Fong absorbed the flaming cloud spiritual gourd, fire deity elephant, and fire crystal stone golem into his body. In this way, all the flames of the heavenly fire pattern talisman could only deal with the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. Now that his cultivation had reached the 8th level of the Yang Soul realm, Su Fong was no longer in a hurry. He calmed himself down and waited for the spirit liquid formed by the origin essence to perfectly merge with the spirit liquid formed by the mysterious yellow stone, origin jade, gold and silver, spirit stones, and spirit veins. With his current cultivation, his strength was at least at the 7th level of the Calamity realm. A strength at the 7th level of the Calamity realm was already considered a small overlord in this small world. No matter where he went, he would be treated as a distinguished guest. More importantly, if Su Fong not only displayed his full strength but also his other techniques, in addition to the divine image jade annulus, his overall strength would increase by several times. He would have reached the peak of the catastrophe realm in all aspects, almost comparable to the height of an ordinary vice elder or junior elder. If time could be controlled, he was confident that he could defeat Elder Chao Chu from the Myriad Treasures Path, who had chased after him back then, or even kill him. Especially in the Zhuotian realm, he was not even afraid of a figure like the Great Elder. If he could not win, he could use the power of the origin essence and the instant space ring to escape. If he could not win, he would run away. Even a big goblin like the Green Feather King was well aware of this. Creak, creak, the last fragment of the origin essence had completely turned into spirit liquid. The final moment had begun. Su Fang came to the front of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. At this moment, the two spirit liquids in the pagoda shadow began to slowly merge. Creak, creak. When the two spirit liquids merged, there would be some friction and repulsion. This was obviously normal. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda controlled the power of burning and incinerated the impurities once again. The two balls of spirit liquid began to mix like two streams, slowly blending together. It seemed easy, but it still took half a year for the two spirit liquids to perfectly merge. There was no repulsion, no friction. It was a riot of colors. Su Fang excitedly counted with his fingers. 7 years. I didn't expect it to take 2 more years. Master, the profound yellow will begin to water. You have to stay away. During the water, the spirit liquids will collide with the profound yellow to a certain extent. The resulting turbulence will cause the volcano to shake. The power of the turbulence will also heavily injure any life forms. Okay. He immediately retreated and flew out of the heavenly flame rune. At this moment, half of the heavenly flame rune was submerged in the magma. But now, it had turned into a rune fireball floating above the magma. In fact, it was the magma that was disappearing. Swish, 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 swish. Inside the heavenly flame rune, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda was burning. The shadow of the control tower floated above. The shadow of the tower opened a hole, and the colorful spirit liquids inside immediately poured out. The spirit liquids turned into bucket-sized spirit liquids and poured onto the top of the Xianhuang Six Path Pagoda from above. Then, they covered the first floor. Squeak! It was like cold water being poured on a red soldering iron. Corrosive sparks appeared above the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Then, the spirit liquids began to flow through a large number of melted cracks. The spirit liquids began to seep into the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda's body from the cracks. More spirit liquids poured in. The spirit liquids also covered the second floor from the first floor. After setting off waves of corrosive sparks, they poured over the third floor. Boom, boom, boom. The tremors inside the volcano became more and more shocking and terrifying. It was as if there was a monster stirring up the depths of the volcano. Under the protection of the divine image Jade Annulus, Su Fang also suffered some tremors, but it did not affect him at all. With the divine image Jade Annulus protecting him, what was there to be afraid of? Even if the fire was 100 times stronger now, he would not be afraid. Magma began to drown the heavenly fire rune talisman and surged towards the mouth of the volcano. Su Fang remained motionless and was swallowed by the magma. In the sea of magma, he was still unharmed. Looking at the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda again, it was covered in spirit liquids. The shadow of the tower above had also disappeared because all the spirit liquids had been poured onto the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. The spirit liquids were still being devoured and repelled in different places, but the movements were getting smaller and smaller. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda absorbed the spirit liquids into the Tao treasure through the cracks. The cracks also began to turn into spirit liquids, and the surrounding immortal treasures also melted into spirit liquids. Whoosh! Whoosh! The volcano exploded. The magma around Su Fang was restored by the fusion of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda with the spirit liquids. The force of the tremors caused the magma to explode from the inside of the volcano. Although Su Fang could not see it, it was like a magma flower had bloomed outside the volcano. Large amounts of magma gushed out. Whoosh! Whoosh! Some figures flashed. It's fine. It's just a volcanic eruption. I thought someone had barged in again. Everyone, let's go back. There are 81 heavenly fire rune talismans below. They can burn everything. We will also die if we go down. It's impossible for anything to happen. The few of them left the sky again. As I expected, as long as the aura of life and treasures are not released from the volcano, any tremors of the volcano will not attract the attention of the people of the Xinyuan Empire. Under the influence of the volcano's eruption, he could still clearly sense the approach of the few big shots in their conversation. He waited for the Xianhuang Six-Path Pagoda to merge with the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. He released his young, nascent soul to sense. The surface of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda and the first layer of formation inside were both in spirit liquids. The cracks on the body of the Xianhuang Pagoda had also turned into spirit liquids. This was the most important moment for the Xianhuang Pagoda. It was in the midst of perfect restoration. Moreover, the flames of the heavenly fire rune talismans and the impact of the volcano's eruption had helped the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda to merge further. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years buzz. The spirit liquids that covered the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda completely disappeared. There were no longer any traces of cracks on the surface of the gold and silver artifact. Finally, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda was perfectly restored at this moment. The Xianhuang Pagoda transmitted its thoughts. Master, your subordinate has finally recovered. Now that you have merged with the Xianhuang Pagoda, you can take advantage of the last flames of the heavenly fire rune talisman to let the Xianhuang Pagoda perfectly merge with you. Whoosh! Su Fang did not hesitate and flew towards the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. At this moment, Su Fang spat out a large amount of blood. The huge body of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda also turned into a transparent cloud and flew into the pool of blood. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, which had entered the pool of blood, also seemed to have turned into blood. Then, under the burning flames, it continuously merged with the blood. Squeak! Su Fang's meridians actually took the initiative to absorb the blood. Within the blood was the formless Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. It had perfectly merged with the blood. At this moment, Su Fang was absorbing the blood back into his body. In fact, he was starting the final fusion with the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Xianhuang has turned into countless formless clones. Within his body, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda was everywhere. When the last of the blood returned to his body, Su Fang felt that his entire body, from head to toe, from inside to outside, was the existence of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. With a thought, a pagoda door appeared on his right palm. A pagoda door also appeared on his left hand. With another thought, a pagoda door appeared between his eyebrows. And with another thought, the pagoda door between his eyebrows immediately turned into the gold and silver Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, which was less than the size of a pinky finger. As long as Su Fang willed it, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda could appear anywhere. Amazing, really amazing. This is the power of the natal magic weapon, Xianhuang. After fusing for a while, Su Fang began to communicate with Xianhuang. But Xuanhuang's origin spirit did not respond, and he also felt that a Xuanhuang's voice kept ringing in Su Fang's mind. It seemed that the Xuanhuang's origin spirit was everywhere. After waiting for a while, he was still in this strange feeling. Su Fang immediately communicated with the Jade Wall. What's going on? The Jade Wall said, Master, the fusion of the natal magic weapon is different from ordinary magic weapons. The biggest difference is that when a cultivator cultivates the natal magic weapon, they must erase the magic weapon's consciousness and force their own primordial spirit, Yang Ying, and will into the magic weapon, so that the human will become the magic weapon's origin spirit. This is one of the reasons why it can become a natal magic weapon. This doesn't mean that I killed the Xuanhuang's origin spirit. At this moment, Su Fang was stunned. He actually didn't know this. In fact, the Xuanhuang's origin spirit already knew that this day would come. It voluntarily disappeared, accepting the devouring and possession of Master's primordial spirit. In fact, its origin spirit has already fused with Master's Yang Ying, but it no longer has its own consciousness. From now on, Xianhuang is Master, and Master is Xianhuang. This is the natal magic weapon, but he still couldn't accept that he had personally killed the Xuanhuang's origin spirit. Since Xianhuang's Six Paths Pagoda has made such a choice, it proves that it is willing to give everything to Master. Master shouldn't be sad. When Master is strong in the future, you can still separate the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, which is equivalent to releasing the origin spirit. Is that so? Yes. That's good. At this time, his mood was better, and he asked, "Now, I have a natal magic weapon." Yes, in the future, Master's cultivation will be more difficult. When a natal magic weapon fuses with your body, the magic weapon will form a shackle on you. Everything has its advantages and disadvantages. This is the disadvantage of a natal magic weapon. Of course, with Master's ability, this is not a problem. Master still has to speed up his cultivation. There is still a long way to go before Master can truly have a perfect natal magic weapon. Chapter 530. The natal magic treasure was finally completed. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda had also recovered to its peak. Under Su Fang's control, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda clearly appeared in his divine aperture without any signs of damage. He then asked, "Yuer, how far is the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda from becoming a Tao artifact?" The divine image Jade Annulus replied, "As long as you go to a great world and use the immortal fire there to refine it, along with some materials from the great world and immortal Qi, the Six Paths Pagoda will become a Tao artifact. Now that it has reached the peak of the mortal world's magic treasures, it won't be difficult for the Six Paths Pagoda to become a Tao artifact." Then I'm relieved. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda is a peerless magic treasure below a Tao artifact. In this small world, it's even stronger than a Tao artifact. After making up his mind, he immediately activated the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. He summoned all the junior commanders Gu Shijin, Zhu Huang, and Bai Ling back into the Six Paths Pagoda from the divine image Jade Annulus. The divine image Jade Annulus continued, "Master, this heavenly fire rune still has a certain amount of power. You can collect it. It can also be considered a magic treasure with the power of a royal grade magic treasure." Fire Tongue Monster. He peeled off a young nascent soul and entered the space inside the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda's body. This space was the place where everyone cultivated. Su Fang summoned the Fire Tongue Monster in front of him. "You've done well this time. I'll give you 81 Heavenly Fire Rune." Heavenly Fire Rune. "Thank you, Master." The fire-tongued monster licked his lips excitedly. Buzz. His true Qi exploded, sweeping up the Heavenly Fire Rune. One rune after another started peeling off. If it's still burning like before, I won't be able to collect it. The 81 rune flew into his palm. In an instant, the fire-tongued monster saw the rune. He opened his mouth and swallowed the rune into his stomach. Only then did the fire-tongued eccentric submit to Su Fang. "Many thanks, Master. This is a heavenly treasure. With this treasure, this subordinate strength will completely reach the peak of the Calamity Realm. Furthermore, this subordinate will be able to enter any scorching hot place in the mortal realm. Cultivate well. In the future, there will be many places where I can make use of you. Furthermore, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda will become my natal magic treasure. In the future, I might extract your magic power and add it to my body." After saying that, Zhang Xian retracted his consciousness. Looking at the empty interior of the volcano, the gushing lava was no longer terrifying. "It's time to go." He temporarily hid the divine image Jade Annulus and activated his natal magic treasure. His skin and muscles were like steel, which was equivalent to the sturdy Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Furthermore, with the addition of the natal magic treasure, the Su Fang would not be threatened by the flames. Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda possessed 6 great powers. In a world of fire, it could naturally control the power of fire. After losing the heavenly fire pattern symbol, the volcano's temperature had reached the normal temperature of the outside world. It could only burn catastrophe realm powerhouses to death. Whoosh! After flying out of the volcano, his body's aura was completely gone. Activating his perfect realm physical body, combined with the power of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda's fire attribute, and the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda had also absorbed a certain amount of the divine origin star's origin energy. Currently, his sensing ability had reached an unimaginable level. My natal magic treasure is 10% complete. My ability is too abnormal. After extending his senses, the surrounding world of flames was completely within his senses. Even the floating prison in front of him was the same. More than 30 powerhouses. Most of them are at the 10th level of the catastrophe realm. The rest have the strength of an elder. In addition to the formation left behind by the Xinyuan Empire, even the leader of a major force would be suppressed here. 10 years have passed. If Sister Yu brought those powerhouses here and was discovered, not to mention saving them, escaping would be a big problem. Furthermore, according to the fire-tongued monster, all the powerhouses imprisoned here had their cultivation crippled. Saving them would be equivalent to saving a cripple. Why take the risk? As for the formation in the depths of the formation, it is a powerful fire attribute magic treasure. However, it is impossible to steal the magic treasure. Since I have already given the heavenly fire pattern symbol to the fire-tongued monster, this trip was not in vain. However, if I can save them, I will be closer to the Lord of Five Poisons. With my current ability, saving them is not difficult. However, after saving them, I have to leave immediately. In the end, he decided to sneak into the prison and save the Five Poisons Divine Sex powerhouse who had been imprisoned for more than 100,000 years. He slowly passed through the flames and controlled the flames to hide his tracks. Soon, he arrived in front of the prison's barrier. Using the fire attribute ability of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, he condensed a natural flame from space and slowly touched the barrier. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda quickly grasped the aura of the formation. After Su Fong meditated in the space of the barrier, the peerless power of the King-grade magic treasure allowed Su Fong to directly pass through the formation. If he did not have his life attribute magic treasure, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda alone would not be able to control the barrier in such a short time. When he entered the barrier, there were no strong flames. It was a calm space. Under his feet was the barrier formed by the seal, and there was a shocking amount of magma. With his perfect vision, he could see that there were many floating prisons in the depths of space. Each prison was cylindrical in shape, and there was a seal on each of them. As for the powerhouses of the Xinyuan Empire, they were scattered in the depths of the huge formation. A portion of them were in a space of flames outside the formation, guarding the prison with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. Those powerhouses would not be patrolling the prison at all times. With the formation there, the formation was their eyes. In the depths of the prison, the cylindrical seals were floating. Fortunately, they had not merged with the formation. They were individual restrictions, and there were hundreds of them. Through his perfect vision, he saw that half of the prisons were idle. Only a portion of them held cultivators with weak life auras. Activating the Rakshasa Jade Bottle, he allowed it to sense the cultivators of the 5 Poison Divine Sect. He quickly confirmed that there were still 4 people alive, and they were in the 4 central prisons. When Su Fong rushed over, he saw that there were indeed 4 old men. They were all skin and bones. There was not a trace of true qi in their bodies, nor did they have a golden core. There was only a faint trace of magic power in their minds, and then the pure essence pills in their bodies were dissolved. The Xinyuan Empire had crippled their cultivation and given them pure essence pills. This method was to make them live in agony. Master, you can act without worry. At this time, Su Fong was still hesitating. Once he acted, he would be sensed by those powerhouses in the formation within a few breaths. The divine image, Jade Annulus, said, "You can not only sense the flaws of cultivation techniques, but also the formation's flaws. After Master saves them, follow Yu's guidance and leave from the weakest point of the formation." So Yu has such an ability. Su Fongdao was happy. The divine image, Jade Annulus, was a Dao item, and had been snatched by immortals. It must have some outstanding points. Master, it's done. In just a few breaths, the divine image, Jade Annulus, used its divine aura to guide Su Fong in a direction. Qi. Su Fong activated his life treasure. He was currently in his physical body, but his abilities and divine aura actually came from the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. He grabbed with his right hand, and the 4 pagoda doors suddenly swallowed the 4 prisons. With the quality of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, it was not a problem to deal with this formation. Furthermore, the Six Paths Pagoda had reached its peak. At this moment, he transformed into a flame and fled. In a breath's time, he arrived at the formation's boundary. Su Fang followed the formation's hand seals described by the divine image Jade Annulus and tapped on the boundary. The boundary in front of him suddenly turned transparent, and Su Fang quickly escaped from the prison. In his flame form, he was like a falling meteor, streaking across the sky of the flaming cave. Buzz! He heard a sudden movement in the prison behind him. The formation is shaking. There's a problem. Not good. The 4 prisons are gone. Immediately order all the big goblin and our sex experts to intercept him. He must be on his way out of the underground cave. At the same time, Su Fang's perfect hearing allowed him to hear the enraged voices of the big shots exploding in the prison. Sister Yu. At this moment, Su Fang activated a rune with poisonous gas. Outside, the blazing inferno purgatory. Buzz. More than 10 experts were hiding in a scorching cave. A black-clothed woman suddenly stood up. It was Sister Yu of the 5 Poison Divine sect. Finally, someone has successfully rescued him from the prison. Everyone, split up. 2 seniors, bring some experts to trigger the formation and attract the attention of the Xinyuan Empire. Yugu immediately gathered everyone and gave the order to the 2 elders who had reached the level of elder. The 2 elders brought a few people and flew out of the cave. More than 10 experts joined them outside the cave. Everyone else, follow me and prepare to receive them. She and the other 2 elders brought the experts and flew out. Underground, flaming cave. Su Fang flew out of the flaming space for a long time. Suddenly, he saw layers of firm and clear boundaries in front of him. On the other side of the boundaries, he could clearly see more than 10 experts forming hand seals. There were also more than 10 fire-type big goblin hiding there and releasing killing intent. Edgeless sword. Whoosh! I want to see just how strong the current me is. Su Fang took out the edgeless sword while activating his life-bound magic treasure. Like a furious lion, he flew towards the formation. The sword slashed at the boundary. Boom! Since he had been discovered, why would he be afraid of causing a commotion? The edgeless sword was also a king-grade magic treasure, and it was indestructible. However, Su Fang was not strong in the past, and his cultivation was too weak. He was unable to use the edgeless sword's advantage. Now, with this sword, Su Fang could clearly feel that the divine power generated by activating the edgeless sword was more than 10 times stronger than before. Chi Kione sword. The edgeless sword easily tore open a hole in the boundary as if it was cutting through it. A terrifying flame burned in the boundary. Su Fang leaped out. In front of him were more than 10 experts who were in a panic. He took advantage of the situation and slashed out with his sword, splitting a peak catastrophe realm expert in 2. His left fist swept out, causing another expert to flip over. Whoosh! Whoosh! There were still a few people in front of him. Without any mercy, he unleashed the might of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Coupled with the edgeless sword, Su Fang slashed out again and again, causing the surrounding experts to roll and crawl. Clang, clang. When the experts at the front saw how powerful Su Fang was, they also activated their king-grade magic treasures. The Xinyuan Empire was a large empire, and each of these experts had a king-grade magic treasure. So what if it was a king-grade magic treasure? The edgeless sword quality was not inferior to theirs. Coupled with Su Fang's life-bound magic treasure, he was able to repel their magic treasures. The Catastrophe Realm experts could only helplessly spit out blood and dodge the edgeless sword's attack. I'm not going to play with you anymore. Chase me if you have the ability. Su Fang finally charged out of passage. Looking at the heavily injured and frightened experts behind him, he shouted. However, his eyebrows rose, and he quickly turned around to flee. Why? This was because the true experts behind him were coming. They had the strength of an elder and came from a prison. Sister Yu transmitted her thoughts clearly. Be careful. We are right in front of you. Someone might be blocking you. I've already sent people to attract the attention of a portion of the Xinyuan Empire's experts. Su Fang's expression tightened, but he was even more certain in his heart. Sister Yu, many thanks. I can still deal with them and break through a few formations. Everyone leave. Those experts from the purgatory are chasing after us. They have the advantage in numbers. Then we will wait for you outside and set up a temporary shuttle door. Sister Yu is also very straightforward. Another array formation. You want to stop me just like that? He flew out from the depths of the flames. Who would have thought that there were layers of array formations above him? There were also many experts. Chapter 531. So what if you're an expert? Numbers can triumph over the heavens. The edgeless sword vigorously swung out a sword beam. Under the explosion of his innate divine might, the sword beam struck the formation in front of him. Thump, thump, thump. A large hole appeared in the center of the formation. The formation behind the hole continued to shatter layer by layer. It was too terrifying. This was the destructive power of Su Fang's Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, his innate divine might, and the edgeless sword. Crossbow killing formation. Following the explosion of the formation fragments, Su Fang forcefully broke through the layers of the formation. He originally thought that the cultivators of the Xinyuan Empire guarding the periphery weren't as strong as the experts inside. But when he saw them, he was truly shocked. It turned out that what welcomed him was an army. An army. They wore golden battle armor, held crossbows, and had long sabers at their waists. Each of them had a mighty expression on their faces. They were different from ordinary cultivators. But the one thing they had in common was that these soldiers all had cultivation bases ranging from low to high levels of the catastrophe realm. In the middle of the soldiers, there were a dozen cultivators in ordinary attire. As the formation was shattered, they were furious and immediately gave orders to the soldiers. Buzz! More than 100 golden-armored soldiers in a row suddenly pulled back their crossbows and condensed golden arrows. The Xinyuan Empire dominates the world with its mighty army. This army is all in the catastrophe realm. To be able to suppress this place, they must have extraordinary strength. Su Fang, who had broken through the fragments, saw the sudden attack of the golden arrows and raised his eyebrows. Buzz, 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 more than 100 golden arrows. A second ago, they didn't seem to be connected to each other. But soon, the aura of each arrow connected and formed a wall of golden arrows that rushed towards Su Fang. Bang! He wanted to see just how strong the Xinyuan Empire's foundation was. Su Fang actually swung the edgeless sword. In front of the golden arrows, he seemed too small. His sword struck the aura of the golden arrows. After the fierce collision, the edgeless sword did not shatter the aura of the arrow-killing array, let alone the large number of arrows. As of this moment, Su Fang was shocked to discover that the aura, spell formation, light, and even the buzzing sound of the arrows were all the same. The arrows formed a perfect arrow formation, which was equivalent to concentrating the power of more than 100 soldiers. Whoosh! He couldn't forcefully fight back. Using his speed and the power of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, he immediately dodged backward and flew up into the air, swiftly passing through the arrow formation's attack range. Swish! Swish! Who knew? Another wave of golden arrows, like a storm, shot from the front and rose from the bottom, whizzing toward the sky above Su Fang. The power, speed, and momentum of each arrow were all the same. It seemed like the army of the Xinyuan Empire was very hard-working in their cultivation. The quality of their army was not inferior to any of the great factions. It was just that they were not like the great factions who had achieved the Tao and were mainly at the fairy realm. Their existence and cultivation was to kill and help the Xinyuan Empire conquer the world. Clang! Clang! This attack was too fierce. It could be seen that the army of the Xinyuan Empire was very experienced in battle. They did not give Su Fang a chance to catch his breath. There was no other way. He waved the edgeless sword and took the opportunity to dodge, hitting the edge of the arrow-killing array. Although it did not shatter the killing array, it restrained a part of the aura. Seizing the opportunity, he dodged the killing formation that was coming from below. This time, it was still a killing array of arrows that came one after another. The army's fighting style is fast, ruthless, and accurate. The opponent has many people, and it is difficult for me to break through directly. There are also giants chasing after me. I'm not going to waste my time with you. Innate divine power, earth elemental dust escape. He had seen the power of the Xinyuan Empire. He chose to burrow into the ground, taking advantage of the arrow-killing array to increase his speed by several times. It was almost the speed of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. When Su Fong reached the ground, he turned into a 1-foot-tall figure and disappeared into the ground with a whoosh, leaving behind only a cloud of dust. Chi! Boom! Boom! Another arrow-killing array hit the ground. Instantly, rumbling sounds could be heard as the ground shattered. Pieces of the ground suddenly exploded into the air. It was like a riverbed that had been exposed to the scorching sun after a drought, and its surface was covered in dried and torn soil. A few miles of land was destroyed. The Xinyuan Empire's army is too overbearing. This army is formed by catastrophe realm experts. It should be the strongest army in the Xinyuan Empire. Let's see how proud you can be when I step into the catastrophe realm next time. In a rock layer deep underground, Su Fong controlled the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda's earth elemental divine power. He sensed that a large area above him had been destroyed. After sweating, he immediately went forward. Were they? After more than 10 breaths, dozens of experts led by the giants flew out from the depths of the flames. They came to the top of the army. An old man coldly looked at the army. A general bowed and pointed at the dust in front of him. I don't know if they're dead or alive. In short, this land has been turned into ruins. Everyone, search every inch of the ruins. Dig out the corpses. Immediately go and support the other group. They have been surrounded by some experts from the Five Poison Divine sect. Yes, the army immediately flew to the other side. The other experts from the Xinyuan Empire came to the surroundings of the ruins. They released their senses and held onto their artifacts. They were searching everywhere. Half an hour later, Sister Yu, are we still going to wait? A portion of the disciples who were covering for us have been killed by the Xinyuan Empire's army. Only a small portion escaped. If we wait any longer, we will be in danger of being surrounded by the Xinyuan Empire. In the depths of the forest, more than 30 experts, under the control of 2 old men, were hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity. The old man came to Sister Yu and suggested that they retreat in time. Sister Yu was very insistent. Wait a little longer. Whoosh! At this moment, an aura suddenly rose from the ground in front of them. He's back. Sister Yu revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. She brought the 2 old men with her and instantly flashed. In the middle of a few trees, an aura suddenly rose from the ground. Su Fong leaped out from the aura, bringing with him sparks from the friction. Sister Yu and the 2 old men appeared at the same time. You finally returned safely. The Xinyuan Empire has set up several large arrays inside and outside the blazing inferno purgatory. It was not easy to kill our way out. We were almost stopped by those big shots. Su Fong casually grabbed, and a restriction flew out. For prisons floated inside. Senior, you have suffered. When they saw the prisons, Sister Yu and the 2 old men glanced at them and saw the 4 skinny old men inside. They looked like they were in so much pain that they wished they were dead. Sister Yu handed the 4 to the 2 old men to look after. With a command, everyone immediately flew out of the forest and towards the Xinyuan planet. Fortunately, the Xinyuan planet's barrier had not been completely sealed. Of course, the Xinyuan Empire would not go to war just because of a few people. They would not waste manpower and money to seal the entire Xinyuan small world. When they arrived in space, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They summoned the heavenly ship and entered it to rest. Half a year later, immortal primordial world. Junior brother, I suddenly received senior sister summons. I will leave the immortal primordial world first. In the sky, the heavenly ship disappeared. Everyone appeared in the clouds and rushed towards the Scarlet Flame Plateau. A rune talisman in Su Fang's body moved. It was the will left behind by Lan Haiqing. She had already left the immortal primordial world a few years ago. Since it was Huang Lingyao who had summoned her, she would not be in danger. After returning to the Scarlet Flame Plateau, everyone followed Sister Yu to the central underground palace. The Lord of Five Poisons was still in seclusion. Sister Yu met with the other old men. After giving out rewards to the disciples who had participated in the mission, everyone left. Su Fang needed time to cultivate. Thus, he returned to the underground palace first. His cultivation had reached the 8th stage of the Yang Soul realm, and he had cultivated the 6th Yang meridian. He had also improved the quality of the Fire Cloud Spirit Gourd, the Fire Divine Elephant, and the Fire Crystal Stone Golem. He had also refined the Origin Source Essence Stone and the Origin Source Essence Stone. Finally, he had successfully repaired the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda and obtained a natal Dharma treasure. This trip to the Xinyuan planet was a huge transformation for Su Fang. He was one step closer to becoming a true expert. After refining and fusing with the Origin Source Essence Stone, Su Fang believed that among the countless cultivators in the Zhuotian world who controlled the Origin Source, there were not many who could reach his level of Origin Source. Prince Shui, Sheng Changsheng, Huang Lingyao, now that I have met you with my full strength, I see that you are all still so arrogant and disdainful. While cultivating, Su Fang felt that his strength was at its peak. This made him secretly exclaim at his fortuitous encounter on the Xinyuan planet. A few months later, Sister Yu came to see him and thanked him profusely. From her words, he realized that Sister Yu no longer had any doubts about him. This time, he had used his strength and actions to completely intimidate the Five Poison Divine sect. It could be said that he had publicly established his authority and did not disappoint the Five Poison Divine sect. Master, I have followed the experts under the Great Emperor Dipper and have already cooperated with Doichi in the immortal primordial world to obtain all the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel in the immortal primordial world. While he was cultivating, another rune talisman moved. It was Lu Yuan. He obtained all the fragments of the immortal primordial world in 10 years. Su Fang was shocked. He immediately activated the rune talisman and communicated with Lu Yuan. He wanted to know more. In fact, Doichi has been secretly pulling strings with the large factions that have the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. The large factions do not dare to openly snatch the fragments from them. They only use resources to exchange for them. As for the smaller factions, they were wiped out overnight by the two experts. What about the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel that are scattered in other small worlds? In fact, most of the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel are scattered in the immortal primordial world, the Xinyuan planet, the human emperor world, and the Tianmong world. A small portion fell into the Wu Tan world, the Zhuotian world, and the Chilean planet. The Xinyuan Empire has already sent people to secretly communicate with these large factions that have the fragments of a human emperor's bright wheel. They will probably gather all the fragments in a very short period of time. After all, the two factions already have the majority of the fragments. With the two factions' great mystiques, they can sense the location of the other fragments. Those factions do not want to offend the Xinyuan Empire. The Xinyuan Empire and Doichi are really powerful. They are rich. They are willing to exchange royal-grade immortal artifacts and many other resources for the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. Did you find out some secrets about Prince Shui? I am sure that Prince Shui wants to ask the Xinyuan Empire for help to refine the Heavenly Gourd Spirit Tree. I am still investigating the rest. Prince Shui will not tell me the truth. Master, you have to think of a way quickly. The Xinyuan Empire and Doichi will probably sense the fragments in your body once they obtain the majority of the fragments. They will then head to the human emperor world to obtain the inheritance soon. I have nothing to do here. I will immediately go and look for you. I will hide in your body and find out more secrets before coming up with a plan. After the exchange, Su Fang immediately went to find Sister Yu and said that he would be leaving for a period of time. Perhaps because Su Fang had contributed greatly to the five-poison immortal sect this time. Sister Yu immediately agreed. She even asked experts to protect him secretly. However, Su Fang tactfully declined and left the Crimson Blaze's upper echelons alone. Half a day later, he arrived at the center of the immortal primordial world at a city very close to the Doichi. He changed his appearance and entered the city. Soon, he met up with Lu Yuan. Chapter 532. After meeting Lu Yuan, Su Fang immediately used his divine ability and entered Lu Yuan's divine aperture to prevent the experts under Great Emperor Dipper from suspecting him. Master, this ordinary city is actually secretly controlled by the Xinyuan Empire. It was built by the Doichi and is the place where the two factions secretly interact. The mansion in front is where all the experts are gathered. Lu Yuan walked around the streets alone and arrived in front of a mansion with a black flag. He could only enter the mansion after the guards confirmed it. Su Fang hid his aura in his divine aperture and used his great perfection ability to sense the mansion along with Lu Yuan's senses. Suddenly, he was shocked. I sense a few auras of the immortal sealing sect's origin. It seems to be Prince Shui. The mansion occupied a vast area. There were several halls, main halls, courtyards, and even more side rooms. Lu Yuan came to a courtyard alone. There were also a few experts resting there. They greeted Lu Yuan warmly. All of them had strength close to the peak of the catastrophe realm. After sitting down, Lu Yuan said, "It's Prince Shui and a few of his confidants." Prince Shui did his best to seize the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel that belonged to a few small factions. Moreover, his strength is really terrifying. He has surpassed the peak of the catastrophe realm and is much more powerful than most of the experts under His Highness. In the future, do your best to get close to His Highness's trusted aides, as well as Crown Prince Shui's surroundings. I'll use my ability to hear everything they're secretly discussing. Within 30 meters, I'll be able to hear everything clearly. But beyond that, it'll be difficult, warned Su Fang. Yes, then I'll get the servants to change to a side room closer to the main hall. The latter immediately took action. He found a mansion's housekeeper and gave him some benefits. He immediately arranged a side room close to the main hall for Lu Yuan. Even so, he was still some distance away from Prince Shui and the other higher-ups. He couldn't hear anything. A few days later, an opportunity came. A few experts from Doichi came. They were all tough, and one of them was even stronger than the catastrophe realm. They held a party at night. Lu Yuan got drunk early in the night. In fact, he found a place close to the higher-ups to sleep as a cover. Prince Shui. At this moment, Su Fang, who was in his divine aperture, saw Prince Shui, who was sitting with the masters of the Xinyuan Empire and Doichi. Although he didn't have the slightest ornament of the celestial sealing sect, Su Fang's astonishing sensing ability couldn't erase the aura of the celestial sealing sect from his body. Even though Zhang Xian had activated his Saint Realm consummation ability, all he could hear was a few people drinking and chatting. But soon, they lowered their voices and put down their wine cups. Looking at the experts below who were drinking and getting drunk, they began to talk. There were 3 masters from the Xinyuan Empire. They were all stronger than the catastrophe realm. One of them said to the old man from Doichi, "Prince means that we have obtained most of the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel according to the plan. We will have to trouble Doichi to retrieve the remaining fragments. We still have to rush back to report to Prince. The Xinyuan Empire is already preparing to seize the human emperor world." The old man from Doichi replied, "Before I came, I received instructions from the elders. I wish you all a smooth return to the Xinyuan planet. The next time we work together, it will probably be in the human emperor world." Of course, the two sides only had an extremely short conversation before drinking again. Late at night, after the Doichi's experts left, Prince Shui and the 3 masters came back and continued to talk in low voices. Prince Shui asked the 3 of them politely, "Prince, Do you have any orders? Your Highness hopes that you can think of a good idea as soon as possible so that the Divine Origin Empire can obtain the Zhuotian Realm's Tao artifact, Xianjia's Gate, in the near future. The Zhuotian Realm is a place where Your Highness can't interfere. I understand Prince's meaning. We all know that Prince has promised you that he will help you refine the Zhuotian Realm's heavenly gourd spirit tree soon. The three of us are very envious. We have to congratulate the Crown Prince in advance. You flatter me. Both sides bowed politely. After a while, most of the people left. Only a few drunk masters remained in the hall. The Xinyuan Empire actually wants to seize the Xianjia's Gate. After the three masters left, Su Fong, who was hiding in the divine aperture, immediately sighed. No wonder Prince values Prince Shui so much. One of the reasons is probably because the Xianjia's Gate is in the Zhuotian realm. The Xinyuan Empire is unable to enter the Zhuotian realm to seize the Xianjia's Gate. After all, it is a treasure of the Zhuotian realm. They must get the approval of the Zhuotian realm's realm lord before the realm lord of the other small worlds can enter. Lu Yuan, who seemed to be drunk, took the opportunity to stagger out of the hall. He snorted again. Prince Shui's mouth is really tight. If it wasn't for Master's ability, this subordinate wouldn't know what the great Emperor Dipper wants from Prince Shui. Su Fong sneered. The great Emperor Dipper is the prince of the Xinyuan Empire. What he wants is what the Xinyuan Empire wants. The Xianjia's Gate is a Tao artifact that everyone in the small world knows. Everyone wants to get it. Although the Zhuotian realm is not as big as the Xinyuan star, it is still a small world. It is not something that the Xinyuan Empire can deal with just because they want to. They can only secretly use methods to plot the treasures of the Zhuotian realm. If the Xinyuan Empire obtains the legendary Tao artifact, then they will be an invincible force in the small world. They can even fight with other small worlds and plunder them. This kind of thing also exists in ancient books. Get close to the courtyard where Prince Shui lives. I want to find out more information. After receiving the order, Lu Yuan soon arrived outside a courtyard in a daze. It was also the place where Prince Shui and a few of his confidants rested. After midnight, Lu Yuan had been lurking outside the courtyard. Su Fong, who had used his great perfection ability, was constantly sensing the movements in the courtyard. But he didn't find out anything. In the next 2 days, he didn't find anything either. In the end, Su Fong made the next decision to go to the Xinyuan star again. There were 2 reasons for this. First, it was for the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. Second, it was to find out the conspiracy between the great Emperor Dipper and Prince Shui. With Lu Yuan's current status, he is only average among these masters. He can't become the great Emperor Dipper's confidant at all. If I want to know exactly all the actions of the Xinyuan Empire, I have to make Lu Yuan the prince's confidant. Otherwise, I won't be able to get any substantial information by secretly inquiring. Think of something. If I can't bear to part with the child, I can't trap the wolf. Su Fong made up his mind. It seemed like he had thought of something. Lu Yuan was sitting cross-legged in a side room when he suddenly muttered to himself in shock. Master, you want to give me the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel and then let me offer it to the great Emperor Dipper in exchange for his trust? This is the only way for you and me to find out the secrets of the Xinyuan Empire. But the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel is too important. If I give it to the Xinyuan Empire, it will be too unexpected. If the Xinyuan Empire succeeds and obtains the inheritance of the human emperor realm, won't they? Don't worry. This fragment of the human emperor's bright will has already been fused. The Xinyuan Empire won't be able to completely control all the fragments. On the other hand, I can use this fragment to fuse with more fragments. If the Xinyuan Empire wants to use this fragment to obtain the inheritance, they will have to be discovered by me first. Master is a genius to be able to fuse fragments. From what I know, the Xinyuan Empire and the Deutsche Empire have been thinking of all sorts of ways to refine fragments for tens of thousands of years. Everyone knows that fusing fragments will make it easier to obtain the inheritance of the human emperor realm. In the end, after so many years, the 2 factions have not succeeded at all. Therefore, I'm doing this because I'm confident. Now, you should think of an excuse to offer the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel to the great emperor Dipper. That's simple. I can say that I came to the immortal primordial realm this time and obtained it by accident when I was destroying the remnants of a small faction. Then, I'll specially offer it to the great emperor Dipper. This way, he won't suspect the origin of this treasure, and the reason will be logical. Good. This way, the great emperor Dipper will see your greed, your selfishness, and your intention to curry favor with him. Offering a fragment and becoming his trusted aide won't be difficult at all. Since Master is so confident, I'll do as you say. The two of them planned carefully. Lu Yuan also had his own ideas. In the end, after an entire night of discussion, the two of them settled down at the same time. After another day, more than 100 experts left the immortal primordial realm under the lead of the three great experts and Prince Shui. They arrived at the Milky Way and flew towards the divine essence planet on the heavenly ship. Within the heavenly ship, every expert was at the catastrophe realm, and they were all resting. Lu Yuan was near the center so that Su Fong could obtain more information from Prince Shui or the three great experts. Needless to say, there was more information this time. Prince Shui and his trusted aide were inside an array formation. Although there was an array formation that could detect movement, it could not block Su Fong's hearing. Crown Prince, are we returning to the Zhuo Tian domain? There's a change of plans. We are going to the Divine Essence planet. We are indeed going to the Divine Essence planet. Brothers, the Xinyuan Empire is about to open to the mortal Emperor world. They are using the fragment of the Emperor Ming Luan to obtain the inheritance of the mortal Emperor world. The great Emperor Dipper wants me to do my best to help him. I cannot go. I also want to broaden my horizons so that I can obtain the inheritance of the Zhuotian domain in the future. Very good, very good. The few of them were secretly chatting with Prince Shui. Although they lowered their voices, it could not escape Su Fong's hearing. It's a good opportunity for us to broaden our horizons. Everyone, be careful with your words and actions. Don't cause trouble in the Xinyuan Empire. That is not the immortal sealing sect. A prince has authority that we cannot afford to offend. We will not embarrass you, Crown Prince. The few of them chatted for a while more, but there was nothing that Su Fong wanted to know. Prince Shui, I want to understand the conspiracy between you and the great Emperor Dipper. I, Su Fong, will not let you become the Zhuotian domain's realm lord as you wish. If you become the realm lord, will I still have a place to live? Su Fong was secretly shocked and retracted his senses. Half a year later, the heavenly ship sailed into the Divine Essence planet. The heavenly ship disappeared, and a 1,000-man army came to welcome them. More than half of this army were Yang Soul Realm cultivators. A small portion of them were catastrophe realm experts. The combat power of such an army could completely destroy any second-rate force. This was Su Fong's second time coming to the Divine Essence planet. But this was the first time that he could look down on the Divine Essence planet from the sky. Passing through the clouds, he saw a large number of cities and imperial cities located on different territories. There were also cultivation forces in the Divine Essence planet, but there were not many of them. To establish a force, one had to obtain the permission of the Xinyuan Empire. In the end, the cultivation forces in the Divine Essence planet were actually secretly controlled by the Xinyuan Empire. Some cultivators saw the Imperial Army and avoided them, not daring to offend them. After a few hours, they arrived at the central territory of the Divine Essence planet. It was a central territory that was separated by 3 circular rivers. It was a large island-like central territory. This island-shaped territory was, in fact, just a small piece of land. It occupied a vast area. One could imagine that it would be a huge project to build 3 large rivers around the territory. All of this revealed the supreme imperial power of the Xinyuan Empire. Chapter 533. 1/3 of the island-shaped continent was the Imperial Palace. In the center was the dazzling and vast Imperial Palace. It was surrounded by cities in all directions, like 8 guards protecting the Imperial Palace. Other than the large number of cities in all directions, there were 4 cities in each direction of the imperial palace. Although it could not be compared to the central imperial palace, it was still better than any empire in the mortal domain. The northern city opposite the northern gate of the imperial palace was the palace of the great Emperor Dipper, one of the 4 princes of the Xinyuan Empire. Every brick and tile was the personal property of the great Emperor Dipper. The group went straight to the northern city. After entering the city, there were even more soldiers patrolling outside the imperial palace. There were also envoys welcoming the experts into the imperial palace. When they arrived at the imperial palace, Su Fang could not help but think of the Zhao nation. Although the small Zhao nation's imperial palace could not be compared to the imperial palaces of the princes of the Xinyuan Empire, it still had the same royal atmosphere. Palace maids and eunuchs could be seen everywhere. There were even more Yang Soul Realm guards and Catastrophe Realm generals patrolling. The imperial palace was too big. Without anyone to guide them, they would definitely get lost. The group came to the outer court of the imperial palace. Everyone had their own palace to rest in. It was extremely luxurious. Everyone entered the palace one by one. However, Lu Yuan followed closely behind a middle-aged man patrolling the palace. He politely said, "Brother Wang, I have a secret meeting with the great emperor." The middle-aged man smiled. "Brother Lu, the great emperor is very busy. I can help you with your problem. This matter is very important. I can only tell the great emperor." He took out a royal grade artifact and secretly gave it to the middle-aged man. "Since that is the case, don't blame me if you make the great emperor unhappy. I did not let you see the great emperor because I want you to know that the great emperor is very busy. If you disturb him with trivial matters, the consequences will be severe." After receiving benefits, he immediately became one of them. The middle-aged man brought Lu Yuan out of the palace and entered the inner palace under the protection of some eunuchs. Secretly, Lu Yuan's Yang soul was in the divine aperture. He whispered to Su Fang, "Master, we are about to reach the imperial palace. Master must be prepared." Buzz. The human emperor's bright wheel fragment appeared in Su Fang's palm. "I have planted a special imprint to hide the aura of my fusion with the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. No matter how high the great emperor's cultivation is, he will not be able to sense the special aura within the fragment. The Big Dipper Emperor's cultivation base has reached the pinnacle. His strength far surpasses the leaders of some major powers. Many of his guards have cultivation bases at the same level as the elders and grand elders. I will be the realm's realm master from the Xinyuan and Doichi. And Doichi, Doichi of, and Doichi, and realm. Looking at Su Fang's confident expression, Lu Yuan became even more curious. What method did Su Fang use to be so confident that he could obtain the inheritance of the Renhuang world from 2 major forces? Lu Yuan took the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. It did not look special. Together with Su Fang, he looked ahead. In the depths of the spacious square, there was a golden palace hall that was 100 feet tall. There were many experts with Catastrophe Realm auras lying in wait around it. This was not the state of Zhao. No one could come here and assassinate the great Emperor Dipper, unless they had the same cultivation as the great Emperor Dipper. Yes, this was not the state of Zhao. Zhao Wuji was not here. This was a small world's pinnacle empire. Su Fang hid his aura and meditated like an old monk in Lu Yuan's divine aperture. "The great emperor has a decree. Please come in." An old eunuch announced the decree to Lu Yuan, who was kneeling on the ground. Lu Yuan trembled as he followed the old eunuch into the palace. The palace hall was immediately closed by the palace maids. A golden-robed middle-aged man with a jade dragon wrapped around his body sat at the front of the palace hall. He was not even 40 years old, but his hair was white. One look, and one could tell that he had been cultivating for countless years, and that his cultivation had reached the pinnacle. This was one of the 4 great emperors of the Xinyuan Empire. He was the great Emperor Dipper, who guarded the northern territories of the primordial god world. The great Emperor Dipper was looking at an ancient map. On it were the words Human Emperor World. When the old eunuch came to his side, he asked coldly, Lu Yuan, why are you looking for this king? Great Emperor. Lu Yuan knelt down. I went to the immortal primordial world and unexpectedly obtained a treasure. I want to give it to the great emperor. I hope I can follow the great emperor forever. Treasure. The great Emperor Dipper still did not look at him. You can keep it. He did not say that he was the great Emperor Dipper. He did not lack treasures. This was undoubtedly a slap in the face. Don't underestimate yourself. One day, follow me and trample the great Emperor Dipper under our feet. When that time comes, you can look at his face that is worse than a beggar's. Su Fong, who was hiding his aura, saw all of this and mocked him. Lu Yuan was also burning with rage as he cursed inwardly. However, he still kowtowed respectfully and said, This subordinate must not keep this treasure for himself. This is because this treasure is the one that His Highness is truly searching for, the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. Oh, the great Emperor Dipper looked at Lu Yuan with surprise. His eyes were like the sun, moon, and stars of this world. Buzz. Without hesitation, he reached out, and a fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel appeared in his hand. The great Emperor Dipper smiled. It is indeed a fragment. How did you get it? When I went to the immortal primordial domain this time, I was in charge of hunting down the remnants of a small faction. While I destroyed their nest, I found a batch of treasures. I kept them for my own use. When I returned and started to clean up the treasures, I found this fragment. Hence, I rushed here to present it to the great emperor. I hope the great emperor will not punish me. How can this king blame you for having such thoughts? The great Emperor Dipper waved his hand, and the old eunuch came in front of Lu Yuan. He took the fragment and returned to the great Emperor Dipper with both hands. After weighing it for a while, the great Emperor Dipper activated his aura and sensed it. He was full of praise. You have made a contribution, and it is the greatest contribution. Issue a decree and confer Lu Yuan the title of Inner Palace Attendant. He can go anywhere except the Forbidden Palace. Furthermore, he can enjoy the royal family's resources every year. Yes, the old eunuch replied. Lu Yuan was in tears. Thank you, great emperor. I will follow you until death to repay the favor. The great Emperor Dipper waved his hand, and under the old eunuch's lead, Lu Yuan left the main hall. The human emperor's bright wheel fragment is still missing. The 8 emissaries are about to bring the rest of the fragments back. The human emperor world belongs to the Xinyuan Empire. Looking at the human emperor's bright wheel fragment, the great Emperor Dipper laughed coldly. Once you find the human emperor's inheritance, this broken thing of yours will be worthless. Worthless. Unexpectedly, after Lu Yuan left the palace, Su Fong was laughing coldly in his divine aperture. He activated the Heaven Secret Life shrinking technique and used the power of his young infant. At this moment, the image in his young infant's eyes was actually the array formation in the depths of the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. In the array formation, a young infant's shadow that Su Fong had peeled off was mysteriously hidden in the array formation. The great Emperor Dipper is indeed powerful. With a sweep of his young infant's divine power, he could see most of the array formation in the human emperor's bright wheel fragment clearly. Fortunately, the young infant's consciousness that I peeled off and planted in the array formation of the fragment was turned into a protective defense by the Heaven Secret Life shrinking technique. That's why I was able to avoid being detected by the great Emperor Dipper. So it turned out, before he handed the human emperor's bright wheel fragment to Lu Yuan, Su Fong used the heavenly demon disintegration seal to peel off a young infant's consciousness and implant it into the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. In order to prevent experts from sensing the young infant's aura, he also used the Heaven Secret Life shrinking technique around the young infant and fused it with the array formation to protect it. In this way, It was equivalent to Su Fong burying his eyes in the human emperor's bright wheel fragment, which was also hidden in the human emperor's bright wheel fragment that the great Emperor Dipper had obtained. Su Fong was too daring. Once there was a deviation in his actions, he would undoubtedly be seeking his own death. If the great Emperor Dipper or the experts of the Xinyuan Empire sensed it, they would seize his young infant and instantly sense Su Fong's location through the young infant's aura. Their murderous intent would instantly come for him. He would only have a dead end. Take a gamble. It turned out that this was what he had decided to do before. Fortunately, I now have the strength and the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. In addition, I have already fused with the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. I am 90% sure that I won't be sensed by the powerhouses of the Xinyuan Empire. Moreover, I can secretly let my young infant keep an eye on all the movements of the Xinyuan Empire. Su Fong, who was in the divine aperture, was still meditating like an old monk. He was not the least bit moved by such a dangerous action. This was because he had experienced many life or death situations over the years since he had stepped into the Crimson Heaven continent. These experiences had undoubtedly forged the heart of an expert in him. Because Lu Yuan had contributed a meritorious service, his status had suddenly changed. He was no longer a small figure in the prince's mansion, but a big shot. He had also arrived at the palace near the inner palace. It happened to be very close to Prince Shue's palace. Prince Shue had also sent a messenger to invite Lu Yuan to be a guest. He knew that Lu Yuan's status was different now, so he wanted to get closer to him. The crown prince's palace was not far away. They arrived in half the time it took for an incense stick to burn. After entering the main hall and arriving at the back garden, Lu Yuan was received by a maidservant. Prince Shue would arrive in 15 minutes. Su Fong used his great perfection ability to sense the surroundings. He could clearly sense Prince Shue's aura inside a formation next to the garden. Prince Shue's yang qi was mixing with several strands of yin essence. Spare us, sisters. Spare you. His Highness raised you goddaughters since you were young. He gave you cultivation and seemed to treat you as his daughters. But in reality, he planted the virgin essence in your bodies so that you could maintain your virginity. He would then use it to reward the experts under his command, or to give it to the experts he needed to form an alliance with. That's why His Highness rewarded you to me, Prince Shue. You will be my dual cultivation sex slaves. It just so happens that I made several breakthroughs recently and reached the 9th level of the catastrophe realm. Now, I can absorb your yin essence and undergo dual cultivation. Who knows, I might be able to break through the catastrophe realm soon and become one of the supreme powerhouses of this small world. Just accept your fate and properly condense your yin essence here. After a while, if you are not ready, your fate will be like those prostitutes on the streets. Any man can toy with you. Prince Shue's overbearing and lascivious voice entered Su Fong's ears. There were also several women who were bitterly begging and screaming. Prince Shue, I didn't expect you to be like the twin immortal sect, needing to dual cultivate with women to gain strength. I think a genius like you is similar to others. I, Su Fong, really overestimated you. Su Fong smiled coldly. He was very surprised that Prince Shue also relied on dual cultivation with women to strengthen himself. He continued to use his hearing. Prince Shue had already left the formation and seemed to be preparing to go to the garden. But suddenly, Su Fong heard Prince Shue's voice that seemed to be talking to himself. As long as I make good use of the great Emperor Dipper and have him help me obtain the heavenly gourd spirit tree, I could take advantage of him in the future and seize the Xinjia Gate. That peerless Tao artifact is mine, Prince Shue's. Chapter 534. Prince Shue, don't be too smug. Su Fong, who was in the divine aperture, heard Prince Shue's mutterings and was filled with killing intent. It seemed that to Prince Shue, the heavenly gourd spirit tree was his, the Xinjia Gate was his, and the Zhuotian world's realm master was also his. Everything. It was all in his bag. Feigning civility with the Xinyuan Empire, using the great Emperor Dipper to obtain the heavenly gourd spirit tree, and also agreeing to help the great Emperor Dipper obtain the Xinjia Gate on the surface. However, in the end, you betrayed him and wanted to obtain the Xinjia Gate from the great Emperor Dipper. What a heaven-defying plan. If you succeed, wouldn't everyone be surnamed Shui? I didn't come here in vain. I didn't come here in vain. I finally know what Crown Prince Shui is thinking. His thinking is his next plan. Last time, we were unable to determine a victor, but next time, either you die or I live. He continued to use his hearing to learn more about Prince Shui's secrets. At this moment, he had just arrived at the garden. When he saw Lu Yuan, he was as enthusiastic as if he was seeing an old friend. If Lu Yuan hadn't changed his identity, Prince Shui wouldn't have lowered himself like this. Although this was the Xinyuan Empire, Prince Shui was still a disciple of the Venerable Tao. He wasn't someone Lu Yuan could compare to. The two of them asked about each other's well-being. They were both scheming. Prince Shui poured wine for Lu Yuan. "Brother Lu, you helped me a lot last time. I will always remember this. If you need anything in the future, let me know. I will definitely help you." Lu Yuan was also smooth and slick. "Everyone is working for the prince. We are all family. I also understand that I am not strong enough and am far from a genius like the crown prince. Now that I have the opportunity to become the prince's subordinate, I am just a weakling. I will need the crown prince's help." "What are you talking about? If I become the prince's trusted subordinate, I will be able to enjoy the empire's resources in the future. However, I am still a disciple of the Celestial Sealing sect and can't truly integrate into the empire. Brother Shui, why don't you leave the Celestial Sealing sect immediately? The prince thinks highly of you, the crown prince. My plan is to become the Celestial Sealing sect's leader. Once my wish is fulfilled, I can leave the Celestial Sealing sect and join the Xinyuan Empire. I hope the crown prince's wish is fulfilled soon." Lu Yuan did not bat an eyelid. He pretended to be concerned, but in reality, he was just trying to find out the truth for Su Fong. He also sis replied, "This after 18 SSS. USTS?" Su Fong could only hide in the Yuan's divine aperture and was unable to cultivate. He could only use this period of time to comprehend the gigantism Vajrabhati and the immortal sealing sect's immortal sealing scripture. Most importantly, he wanted to unleash more of his natal magic treasure's divine might and make good use of it. Several months had passed, but Lu Yuan still hadn't been summoned by the great Emperor Dipper. The same was true for Prince Shui. It seemed that it wasn't that the great Emperor Dipper didn't treat him as a trusted aide, but that he hadn't done anything during this period of time. Half a year later, there was finally some movement. This was also an opportunity that Su Fong had been waiting for a long time. Lu Yuan arrived at a courtyard in the inner palace and saw Prince Shui and a dozen experts chatting in the garden. When they saw Lu Yuan, everyone warmly congratulated him. This was especially true for those experts who had previously treated Lu Yuan as their subordinates. Now, they were all treating him with respect. "Your Highness has arrived." A group of eunuchs suddenly came to greet the great Emperor Dipper. "Greetings, Your Highness." More than a dozen experts bowed to the great Emperor Dipper. The great Emperor Dipper came to the center. As expected of an emperor, he was awe-inspiring without being angry. His demeanor made it seem as though the entire world was under his feet. He nodded to the crowd, but did not lose his friendliness. "Everyone, please take a seat. There's no need to be reserved. All of you have followed this king for many years." Indeed, other than Prince Shui, everyone else present had followed the great Emperor Dipper for hundreds or even thousands of years. However, the great Emperor Dipper and the others would never have guessed that there was an outsider beside them. Su Fong was probably laughing in his divine aperture at this moment. Actually, even though he was not laughing, Lu Yuan was secretly feeling smug. This was because he had followed a new boss. Although he was still lacking compared to the great Emperor Dipper, his future potential was limitless. Now, he was hiding right under the nose of the great Emperor Dipper. Who could do it? This time, some of you will go to the immortal primordial domain and work with Doi Chi to retrieve many fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. You will contribute to the empire and the empire will remember your contributions. In the future, you will become the eternal rulers of a territory. With the protection of the Xinyuan Empire, even if immortals descend, they will not be able to touch you. It's our great honor to serve the empire. All the experts took the opportunity to flatter the great emperor. Right now, the empire's experts are preparing to put the fragments that they have collected over the years into the immortal cauldron. They will use the power of the immortal cauldron to find the inheritance left behind by the human emperor's world lord in the human emperor's world. They will probably move out soon. At that time, the empire's 4 great princes will personally move out, along with countless armies. The great Emperor Dipper went straight to the point. Everyone, prepare yourselves. This is the first major event since the founding of the empire. There will definitely be many enemies of the empire who will take the opportunity to cause trouble. For example, the 5 Poisons Divine Sect. The 5 Poisons Divine Sect is nothing. Even if the Lord of the 5 Poisons is truly reincarnated, his cultivation base will still be as strong as before. This is no longer the era of the past. One of the experts didn't put the 5 Poisons Divine Sect in his eyes. Don't underestimate the 5 Poisons Divine Sect. I heard people say that the 5 Poisons Divine Sect barged into the Inferno Purgatory and rescued the 5 Poisons Divine Sect's antiques that have been suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years. That means they still have some tricks up their sleeves. So what? Those enemies of the Empire have all had their cultivation crippled. I don't understand why the Lord of the 5 Poisons would want to save those trash. What's the point of saving them? From what I see, brother, perhaps the Lord of the 5 Poisons is also trash. He wants to rely on a bunch of trash to go against the Empire? He's courting death. While the great Emperor Dipper was silent, the experts of the 5 Poisons Divine Sect continued to speak. One by one, the experts chimed in, ignoring the 5 Poison Divine Sect. Instead, they praised the divine Origin Empire to the skies. In reality, the great Emperor Dipper wasn't happy because of this. As an antique and a prince of the Xinyuan Empire, how could he not know how powerful the Lord of the 5 Poisons was? However, he wouldn't reveal this. The people around him were just chess pieces in his hands. 2 hours later, other than Prince Shui who stayed behind, everyone else left the courtyard under the orders of the eunuch. Su Fong had Lu Yuan take a stroll in the surroundings. In reality, he was using his perfect perfection ability to find out more secrets about Prince Shui and the great Emperor Dipper. Soon, he heard the great Emperor Dipper absorbing energy. He was like Mount Tai. If he breathed, Su Fong could sense that he was like a supreme giant from ancient times. It was terrifying to the extreme. Crown Prince, this time, this king will help you break through the catastrophe realm and enter the ranks of powerhouses. Thank you, Your Highness, for your kindness. When you become a powerhouse, when the Xinyuan Empire merges with the human sovereign world, I will help you return to the Celestial Sealing Sect and collect the Heavenly Gourd Spirit Tree. Unfortunately, the Celestial Sealing Sect's fragment of the human sovereign wheel was taken away by the big Goblin King Greenfeather when he escaped. I can't fulfill my promise and give it to Your Highness. My empire has the immortal cauldron. We only need a large portion of the fragment of the human sovereign wheel to find the inheritance of the human sovereign world lord. The world is vast. When the human sovereign wheel shattered, it must have produced countless fragments. Is it possible to find all of them? Impossible. Even immortals can't collect the fragments of the human sovereign wheel in this small world. The Crown Prince is relieved that Your Highness can understand me. You are different from those people in the palace. You have talent and endless potential. The future belongs to young people like you. This king also hopes that you can become the Zhuotian Realm Lord in the future. The Zhuotian Realm Lord. This king has cultivated for many years. How can he not know what you are thinking? Everyone wants to become the Zhuotian Realm Lord. This is natural. You don't have to deliberately hide it. Yes, go back. Cultivate well. The last hurdle is the bottleneck. Yes. After the great Emperor Dipper finished speaking, Prince Shui's footsteps became clearer. Prince Shui left the courtyard and disappeared at the front of the corridor under the guidance of the eunuch. The 6 Yuan Yang incautiously asked Su Fong, "Master, do you have any news? Should I follow the crown prince?" Su Fong was using his great perfection stage ability. Since Prince Xue had left, it was indeed time to leave. However, just as he was about to agree, he suddenly heard footsteps in the courtyard. It wasn't the great Emperor Dipper's footsteps. Instead, someone came to the courtyard. "Your Highness, can this Prince Xue be trusted?" An old man asked hoarsely. "Not worth it." The great Emperor Dipper gave a decisive answer. "It seems that your Highness wants to use this kid to get the Xinjia Gate. Prince Xue is too conceited. There are only 2 outcomes for this kind of person. One is that he will become the absolute ruler of the small world in the future. The other is that he will die early. This subordinate thinks that the second outcome is Prince Xue's fate. He is just a chess piece in my empire, a chess piece that is lying in ambush in the Zhuotian realm. All right, you are here. Did Imperial Brother bring you a message? His Majesty wants your Highness to act as soon as possible. Through the immortal cauldron passed down from above, you should find the news of that treasure from most of the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel as soon as possible. That treasure is hidden among the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. I don't know if we can find any clues after collecting most of the fragments. Go back and report to Imperial Brother. For that treasure, this king will definitely put all his energy into the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. This subordinate will go see the emperor now." After the hoarse old man finished speaking, Su Fong heard the sound of footsteps again. After leaving the courtyard, the footsteps suddenly disappeared into thin air. He came without a trace and disappeared without a sound. That hoarse old man must be an existence that stood at the peak. He was the true confidant of the Xinyuan Empire. That treasure. Su Fong no longer cared about the great Emperor Dipper and the identity of that big shot. Instead, from the conversation between the great Emperor Dipper and the old man, he actually heard a huge secret. There seemed to be some kind of treasure in the human emperor's bright wheel, and the existence of this treasure seemed to be only known by the Xinyuan Empire. Because Su Fong had been paying attention to the human emperor's bright wheel, he had never heard of that treasure in the human emperor's bright wheel. If that treasure existed, Green Feather King would know about it. If he knew, why didn't he tell him? Let's change our perspective. If that treasure really existed, Prince Xue wouldn't have any ideas about it. He would just watch the peerless treasure slip away from his hands. There were also those big forces that gave the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel to the Xinyuan Empire and Deutsche. In summary, it seemed that the treasure mentioned by the great Emperor Dipper was only known by the Xinyuan Empire. Of course, the Deutsche might also have some of it. He ordered Lu Yuan to leave the inner palace. On the way, he kept thinking about what that treasure was. Could it be? In a flash, he suddenly remembered that when he was fusing with the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel, there was a mysterious shadow inside the deepest part of the formation. It was the incomplete true text. Could it be that treasure? It should be. He was sure that there was something that had nothing to do with the human emperor's bright wheel inside the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. Just this point alone didn't make sense. Chapter 535. It turned out that there were other secrets in the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. Su Fong used his wisdom at this moment. It seemed like the Xinyuan Empire not only wanted to obtain the human emperor world, but also the treasure in the human emperor's bright wheel. The Xinyuan Empire is determined to obtain the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. We cannot let them succeed and let them take all the benefits. Most importantly, if the great Emperor Dipper gets what he wants, he will also support Prince Xue. Back at the imperial residence, Lu Yuan was cultivating. However, Su Fong didn't say a single word to him about what he had heard or what he was thinking. He had been meditating for the past few days. Lu Yuan seemed to have gained some strength as his Yang Ying bowed to Su Fong. "Master, His Highness just sent a decree. We will probably leave the human emperor world in 10 years. The human emperor world has lost the control of the realm lord and has been floating in the small world starry sky for many years. It will take some time before we can reach there. You will follow beside the great Emperor Dipper and follow them to the human emperor world. I will go there first to make preparations. Master, I have something to say. Just say it. The human emperor world is an operation that the Xinyuan Empire and the Doichi have been planning for countless years. They are determined to obtain it. When the time comes, how will Master get the treasure from them alone? Taking a step back, even if they get the treasure, they will kill Master. This is the truth. Your worries are not without reason. This is as difficult as ascending to heaven. Just you and me. I will think of a way. You will continue to hide beside His Highness and wait for my signal. Su Fang had also thought of Lu Yuan's worries. The human emperor world was a treasure that the Xinyuan Empire had been plotting for a long time. Who could fight with them for it? Under the protection of some palace maids and guards, Lu Yuan left the palace and looked at the scenery in the city. Su Fang took the opportunity to leave his divine aperture and used his great ability to silently escape. In the vast starry sky outside the primordial god world, Jiang Yi took out the heavenly ship and was slowly moving through the starry sky. He distributed the resources to Gu Shizhen, Bai Ling, the heavenly domain snow lion, the sky snow flying raccoon, the water snake big goblin, the flame tongue, and other small commanders. The Vermilion Emperor's strength had recently increased at an astonishing rate. In Inferno Purgatory, he had borrowed the power of the Inferno to refine many resources and fuse them with the wrath of the demon god. It is still difficult to ascend from the 8th stage of stage 9 Yongying. I need some time to cultivate. Jiang Yi understood Jiang Yi's body. Less than 2 years. Another heavenly ship came from the direction of the immortal primordial domain and the Wu-Tan domain. There were many small worlds in that galaxy, and the deeper one went, the more there were. On the other hand, although there were many small worlds behind the primordial god world, the depths of those worlds were pitch black. Swish! As the heaven boat approached, Su Fang took the initiative to suck the heaven boat into his palm before flying into the heaven boat. Inside the heavenly ship, there were more than 305 poison divine sect experts. Most of them were at the peak of the calamity stage. Some of them had already reached the strength of elders and even grand elders. The 5 Venom sect master brought Aunt Yu to see Su Fang, as well as another big shot, Li Ziqing. The 4 of them entered a barrier in the depths. After everyone sat down, Su Fang bowed to the 2 big shots. Thank you, seniors, for coming to our aid. The Lord of 5 Poisons replied casually. Who asked us to have a common enemy? If the Xinyuan Empire and Doichi get what they want, then we won't have a good life in the future. What the hierarch dares to do, I also want to see the power of the 2 top forces. Li Ziqing was also very calm, but his expression darkened. Boy, you and I went through the Xinjia gate together. It's really not easy to come back alive from that kind of dangerous place. I believe that this time, you also have the confidence to get the treasures from the 2 forces. This time, Doichi secretly cooperated with the Green Lotus Sword sect, and the Green Lotus Sword sect should have generously given a fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel to Doichi. Obviously, the Green Lotus Sword sect and Doichi are also together. If these 3 forces form an alliance in the future, I will have no place to stay in the Wu-Tan realm. The 2 seniors should clearly remember the 7 Stars Demon Island. The owner of that island is the immortal 7 Stars child, and he has the Green Lotus Sword sect behind him. Last time, I caused a ruckus in 7 Stars Child's dojo and took all his treasures. If he comes down to the mortal realm, he will definitely bring the Green Lotus Sword sect to hunt me down. Rather than offending a big shot, it's better to offend more enemies. I won't let the 2 forces snatch the treasures away. During this time, I have been lying in ambush beside the prince of the Xinyuan Empire and the great Emperor Dipper. I have a rough idea of their plans, and I will also know the next step of their plan. Although the 2 forces are aggressive, if I integrate the inheritance first, then I have full confidence that they won't be able to kill me. The great Emperor Dipper is an incomparably powerful figure. His cultivation is much stronger than mine. Li Ziqing's eyes darkened after hearing this. The Lord of Five Poisons was still calm. More than 100,000 years ago, when our sect was unhindered in the world, we encountered experts from the Xinyuan Empire and the Deutsche Empire. Some died, and some ascended. Now, they're all juniors. They naturally think that our sect is a thing of the past. This time, our sect will teach them a lesson. Moreover, the two forces destroyed our sect in the past, and this hatred will also be avenged. Kid, don't worry, we will do our best to help you. Li Ziqing didn't ignore the two forces like the Lord of Five Poisons. If we have some more experts by our side, we will be more confident in our actions this time. Some more experts? Where to find them? Su Fang had no way to find such experts. Exalted Master Yuezhen was naturally one, but he was now the Great Elder. His every move would be monitored by the Celestial Sealing Sect. The Lord of Five Poisons was an existence that had existed for more than 100,000 years. Not to mention 100,000 years, even 10,000 years would cause many cultivators to fall. He wouldn't have any experts to help him. It was the same for Li Ziqing. If he had allies, he wouldn't have to care about the Green Lotus Sword sect in the Wutan realm. Fortunately, the Five Poison sect had so many experts. Each of them was a tough nut to crack. As long as they cooperated well, once they helped Su Fang obtain the inheritance, the two forces could only hand over the Human Emperor realm dejectedly. After discussing for a while, they were more or less confident. Su Fang said again, "Senior, the difficult thing for us now is to find the Human Emperor realm. According to the ancient records, the Human Emperor realm used to be in the Tianmong realm behind the Primordial God realm, and even deeper behind the Zhenlong realm. The Human Emperor realm lost control more than 100,000 years ago due to the death of its realm master. A large number of cultivators killed their way into steel treasures, and it has almost become a ruined planet. After the Lord of Five Poisons formed a seal, they arrived at the Milky Way in front of them. He introduced, there are countless small worlds and many planets. Most of them were born in ancient times, but some are created by powerful cultivators who used all kinds of divine abilities and cultivated for 100,000 or even 1,000,000 years. A world without a realm master will lose control and drift through the Milky Way. When I went to the Human Emperor realm in the past, it was still behind the Zhenlong realm. At that time, it was moving bit by bit. I estimate that after 100,000 years, it has already left the Zhenlong realm. It won't be easy to find the Human Emperor realm. Li Ziqing revealed a difficult expression. Kid, didn't you fuse with the fragment of the Human Emperor's bright wheel? Then you can control the origin aura of the Human Emperor realm. Brother Li and I will form a seal and use our divine abilities. Combined with the aura in your body, we can sense the aura of the Milky Way in the Human Emperor realm for a certain period of time. It seemed that it wasn't difficult for the Lord of Five Poisons at all. Otherwise, how could he find a small world in the empty starry sky of the boundless galaxy? I have the ancient spiritual fireflies. No, the ancient spiritual fireflies can't sense the aura of a small world in the Milky Way. Let's do as the sect master suggested. Su Fang also had his own ideas. However, no idea could stop the Lord of Five Poisons. Under the gaze of the two giants, he condensed the aura of the Human Emperor realm's origin that was left in his body after fusing with a fragment of the Human Emperor's bright wheel. This bit of the origin of the Human Emperor realm was less than 1/10,000th of the origin of the Wutan realm in Su Fang's body. He felt that it was difficult and impossible, but it didn't mean that the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing couldn't do it. Heaven and Earth Sensing Technique. The Lord of Five Poisons peeled off a burning intent and felt that the energy was like an ocean, vast and vast as it wrapped around the aura of the Human Emperor realm. At the same time, Li Ziqing also used the Heaven and Earth Sensing Technique. When the two giants made their move, the heavenly ship seemed to have stopped and become a part of the Milky Way. Sister Yu was worried. Master, your strength hasn't recovered to its peak, and you're already using the Heaven and Earth Sensing Technique. Isn't that? The Lord of Five Poisons smiled widely, and his overbearing aura was like the heavens and the earth. This is nothing. If the Xinyuan Empire and Deutschi's plans fail, and they lose the human emperor realm, I will have the possibility of revenge. However, if they get the human emperor realm and have another realm lord, then I can only go to the great world and become a supreme immortal. Only then can I come back and take revenge. By then, everything would have been over. We cultivators fight day and night and fight for today. Buzz, buzz. In the heavenly ship, the burning divine sensing technique seeped into the Milky Way in the deep space. The actions of the two giants undoubtedly showed Su Fong that they would help him this time no matter what. Su Fong also felt relieved. The help of these two giants was indeed one of the biggest guarantees for him to get the human emperor's inheritance. If it was just him alone, no matter what, he wouldn't be able to get the treasure from the hands of these two forces. 3 months, 6 months, time passed very slowly. During the waiting process, Su Fong took out hundreds of drops of immortal blood essence for the two elders to absorb. The immortal blood essence was the most precious treasure to them, as it could condense the immortal spirit body. During this process, Sister Yu was constantly worried. She was worried that the Lord of Five Poisons had damaged his foundation and wouldn't be able to recover. Got it. Li Ziqing and the Lord of Five Poisons shuddered at almost the same time. The two giants woke up. The human emperor realm used to exist in the Milky Way behind the true dragon realm. There's still a faint aura left in that Milky Way, and we can sense a very secret aura of the human emperor realm in the depths. However, what let us know the approximate location of the human emperor realm wasn't the origin, but the aura of the Xinyuan Empire and Deutschi. Seniors, you mean that the two forces have already found the human emperor realm? Su Fong's expression was as if he had fallen from heaven to hell. I can sense it. I communicated with the hierarch, and he already had this idea, Li Ziqing explained. Since the two forces want to obtain the human emperor realm, they must have already started searching for it. The two forces have countless experts, and they will definitely be able to find the human emperor realm. Furthermore, from the looks of it, they have already made preparations in the human emperor realm. If we go there, we'll be walking right into their trap. So what? Even though we know that the two forces control the human emperor realm, we still have to go. If they obtain the treasure, our sect will panic. Fine. Since we're already here, let's see what the two forces are capable of. At this distance, we will probably need another 3 years to reach the human emperor realm. The Tianmong realm is just ahead. If we get closer to the human emperor realm, we can only abandon the heavenly ship and fly through the Milky Way. At this point, there was no need for Su Fong to worry. The two giants had already sensed the situation and knew what was going on. They understood the current situation better than Su Fong. Looking at the Milky Way, there was indeed a small world that was getting closer and closer. The Tianmong realm, another small world in the Milky Way with countless cultivation civilizations. Chapter 536. Since there were still 3 years, Su Fong would use this opportunity to cultivate. However, before he started cultivating, he couldn't bear to see the two giants sweat and waste their energy for his sake. In fact, he also knew what the Lord of Five Poisons was thinking. Helping him at all costs was equivalent to helping him. The Deutschi and Xinyuan Empire were thorns in his eyes, thorns in his flesh, and he couldn't wait to get rid of them. If the two forces obtained the human emperor world, then the Five Poisons sect couldn't even be rebuilt, let alone expand. He naturally wanted to destroy them. So he might as well help Su Fong obtain the inheritance of the human emperor world. Su Fong deeply understood this, but he still said something that moved the two giants. Seniors, I recently obtained the Spirit Sex Tao artifact, the divine image Jade Annulus from the Green Lotus Sword sect. This artifact has a sensing array and cultivation technique flaws. Why don't you two take a look at it? The divine image Jade Annulus is a good thing. The Lord of Five Poisons was very shocked. The spirit sect was also the representative of the Zhuotian world back then, and the divine image Jade Annulus was famous in this small world. Unfortunately, I've never seen it before. You're quite generous, kid. You worked hard to get a treasure from the Green Lotus Sword sect. Li Zicheng knew that he had the divine image Jade Annulus, but he didn't expect Su Fong to take out a Dao artifact. A Dao artifact was the most secretive treasure for every cultivator. I've already fused with the divine image Jade Annulus, so I'll let my Yuan spirit out. Seniors, just relax. My Yuan spirit will show the flaws in time to you too. Buzz. His left hand opened slightly, and a ray of light rose. It was a jade Xinguang, full of the power of a Dao artifact, but not as domineering. It was just like an ordinary spirit artifact. Seeing this, the two giants sized it up without hesitation. At their cultivation level, they were only a few steps away from becoming supreme giants. Especially the Lord of Five Poisons, he was already half an immortal. Su Fong still avoided them. The two giants' cultivation techniques were a secret, and this was something that couldn't be crossed. That's the true dragon world. While waiting, Su Fong didn't know how long the two giants would take to cultivate. Therefore, as he faced the direction of the heavenly ship, he cultivated while staring at the vast Milky Way. He felt more and more like he had left the small world of nothingness. After passing through the Tianmong realm and the surrounding small realms, there were a few more small realms behind them. The largest planet at the front was the True Dragon Realm. The True Dragon Realm was also a place where cultivators flourished. The aura from a small world was enough to show how extraordinary the True Dragon Realm was. Behind the True Dragon Realm was an almost empty galaxy. There were also some planets in the depths of the two sides, but they were all remote and desolate planets with countless powerful life forms. If human cultivators wanted to go to those places to cultivate, most of them would not be able to return. The Savage Planet was a place where humans had yet to set foot on. There was no cultivation civilization there. The True Dragon Realm, the Tianmong Realm, and the Primordial God Realm were small worlds that used to be barren planets. When cultivators set foot on these small worlds, a ruler would appear, who was the first Realm Lord. After the Realm Lord appeared, he would refine the barren planets and merge them into small realms for cultivators to cultivate. However, this process would take millions of years or even tens of millions of years before a barren planet could be born into a small cultivation world. Dust couldn't hide the Milky Way, and time couldn't obscure the brilliance of the Milky Way. Human cultivators opened up new lands and built the current cultivation civilization step by step. The world was so vast that there was no end to it. Human cultivators moved from the land of civilization to the barren lands and built a cultivation civilization in the barren lands. There was no terminator, only a continuous expansion of latecomers. Thanks, kid. The divine image Jade Annulus is really amazing. At this moment, the jade light entered Su Fong's body from behind. He turned around and saw the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Zicheng looking like they had gained a lot. It seemed that the divine image Jade Annulus had helped them solve many cultivation problems. The divine image Jade Annulus was a Dao artifact. It was a supreme treasure, but it depended on how the user used it. Su Fong didn't want to interfere with the cultivation path of the two big shots. As for himself, he let the divine image Jade Annulus sense his flaws and didn't cultivate according to the perfect cultivation method it deduced. Good treasure. The Lord of Five Poisons walked over and stared at the Milky Way. They looked over together. It turned out that unknowingly, in the depths of the Milky Way, there was a floating layer of dark clouds. It should be the Milky Way storm dust. Li Zicheng judged. It's just that such a large area of dust matter is a little unbelievable. It's several times larger than a small realm. The Lord of Five Poisons was shocked. Storm dust. That time, he and Li Zicheng had encountered a Milky Way storm. However, he had never seen storm dust before. After Li Zicheng's introduction, he learned that the Milky Way dust was actually a small meteorite in the Milky Way, as well as the material formed after a planet shattered. There were also some destructive forces formed when some big shots fought in the Milky Way. All kinds of complicated materials were miraculously enveloped by the Milky Way's power and eventually formed a large number of ruins floating in the Milky Way. This kind of Milky Way dust was also very dangerous. If it moved with the Milky Way's power and hit the true dragon world, the entire small realm would instantly shatter. Of course, if there was a realm master controlling the true dragon world before, it could still avoid shattering. It took another half a year to get close to the Milky Way dust. Now, they could see clearly that it was indeed all kinds of stones and materials in different shapes, but they were all enveloped by the mysterious power of the Milky Way, forming a shocking dark cloud like a world of ruins. Unfortunately, the mortal emperor world was in the depths of the Milky Way, which was also in the ruins. Li Ziqing asked, "Sect Master, the mortal emperor world shouldn't have been destroyed by this Milky Way dust, right?" It's hard to say. In short, we can sense its aura. Coupled with the experts of the Doi-Chi and the Xinyuan Empire, it's obvious that the mortal emperor world still exists, but it should have been damaged to a certain extent. After the Lord of Five Poisons nodded, everyone's expression tensed up. Buzz! The heavenly ship disappeared into thin air, and the four of them were in the vast and cold Milky Way. Flesh, embryo, divine armor. Among the four of them, Su Fang's strength was the weakest. He instantly put up a defense and didn't activate his life treasure. At this moment, his strength had already reached the 8th or 9th level of the catastrophe realm. It was no longer a problem for him to use his flesh embryo defense to resist the various powers of the Milky Way. Even the undying realm could stay in the Milky Way, but they could only stay in it for an hour before dying. The catastrophe realm could fly in the Milky Way, and they could also fly for a long time. Following behind the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing, Sister Yu and Su Fang went out side by side, bypassing a large area of ruins. After a few months, they found an area with very little dust and slowly escaped into the depths of the Milky Way. Some of the dust was as big as a mountain, while others were as fine as sand. Fortunately, there was no explosion of the Milky Way's power. If there was an explosion, the whole body would move on a large scale, and the collision and friction would form a crushing force. Even the Lord of Five Poisons would die under the crushing force. After another few months of slow travel, Su Fang suddenly clearly sensed the aura of the mortal emperor world and immediately told the two leaders. In fact, the two leaders also sensed the aura of the cultivators of the Xinyuan Empire and the Doi-Chi. Carefully passing through layers of dense dust, they finally saw a planet inside. But it was a planet full of holes. The planet's enchantment had disappeared, just like the surrounding dust in the Milky Way. Chapter 537. You're still very young. Although your experience is extraordinary, you still haven't truly seen through cultivation. Your vision is still very narrow. The Lord of Five Poisons continued to speak in the tone of an elder, reprimanding him. Ever since I started cultivating, I've only understood one truth. Truth. Su Fang felt as if he had been struck by lightning. The Lord of Five Poisons slowly condensed his chi. Even Sister, you listened attentively. This truth is actually very simple. It can be summarized in one sentence. Walk your own path of cultivation. As long as your heart is focused on the great Tao, regardless of whether you cultivate the devil, evil, or demon, you'll reach the great Tao and become an immortal. Whether it's good or evil, it's all in your mind. Once you have a clear conscience, you'll be able to comprehend what is good or evil. Sect master skills are truly extraordinary. Li Ziqing also felt enlightened. I've embarrassed myself, but compared to Brother Li, I'm still qualified to point out some of my views. Of course, everyone's path of cultivation is different. It doesn't have to be my path. Brilliant. Let's prepare to take action. From the looks of it, there should be a formation or base camp set up by two major powers in the human emperor world. There should be many experts there. It should be easy for us to sneak in. Once we're inside, we'll let this kid take the lead. Let him absorb as much of the human emperor world's origin energy as possible. When the inheritance of the human emperor world's master appears, we can use the origin energy to fuse with it. Let's go. The Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing both had their own views and opinions. This made Su Fong less worried. This way, he didn't need to waste his energy thinking about the process. He only needed to look at the results, and it would be much easier for him to make a decision. The four of them circled around a large amount of dust and arrived at one side of the human emperor world with great difficulty. There were more than 1,000 slaves on both sides. They were controlling the chains and moving the human emperor world. Some experts from the Xinyuan Empire and Deutsche were patrolling. There weren't many of them. They probably didn't expect anyone to dare come here. Subconsciously, they already treated this place as their own territory. It was easy to fly into the Renhuang world. Because there was no enchantment, coming to the ground was like being in the Milky Way. The only difference was that the spiritual qi coming from the Renhuang world was very abundant, allowing cultivators to cultivate here. Look, the underground palace under that rock should be the headquarters of those two powers. There should be over 10,000 cultivators there, as well as a few experts even stronger than me. At this moment, the four of them walked along the canyon and passed through the middle of a mountain. An irregular hole, less than 3 meters wide, appeared. The shape of the hole was exactly the shape of the monster's body. The four of them immediately jumped into the hole. Li Ziqing released his divine power and covered the hole. He also formed a formation to prevent the experts of the Xinyuan Empire from discovering this place once they arrived. Bang, bang, bang. Su Fong used his magic power again and again, shattering the skeletons in the depths of the hole. About 300 meters deep, the skeletons reached the end and turned into dust. At the end was a natural pit that could only allow one person to pass through. Slowing down, they carefully entered the pit one by one. In an instant, a powerful aura of the source came from the depths. They were all excited. After another hour, they finally arrived at a space with an underground river. This place wasn't dark at all. Instead, it was brightly lit. That was because there were spirit stones here, as well as a dozen spirit veins. If they were all opened up here, it would be enough to establish several large sections. The Lord of Five Poisons sighed and said, "What a place of source. I wonder how frightening the area formed by the spirit stones is. This is the source of power formed by the Renhuang world over countless years. It also contains the power of the world." Su Fong looked down at the countless spirit stones and spirit veins. Suddenly, he felt an even stronger source of power in the depths. "I wonder if there are source stones here," Li Ziqing suggested. "It's possible to find source stones. They're the essence of a world. They're not big in size, but there are many of them. They are usually found in the depths where the source of power is concentrated. You should cultivate first and absorb the source. Maybe when you reach a certain level, you will find source stones." Okay. Instantly, he released his aura and sat cross-legged in the middle of a few spirit veins. Whoosh! The two giants, one on the left and one on the right, cast a formation that was like a big furnace. They activated their magic power, and the surrounding source, spiritual energy, fiercely poured into the formation. At this time, Su Fong also entered the formation. It was like walking into a furnace of energy. The source, spiritual energy of the Renhuang world was indescribable. Fortunately, because he had fused with the fragment of the Renhuang bright wheel, his body had a certain amount of the Renhuang world's aura. After absorbing the energy, his body could quickly fuse with it. Su Fong was like a ferocious beast, greedily absorbing the source energy. The Renhuang world's true qi was gradually forming in his body, and the energy in his body was beginning to rise. If this continued, he might be able to break through the 8th stage of Yang Soul and step into the 9th stage of Yang Soul. This kid's physical body isn't the perfect physical body, but it is still incredible. Chapter 539. How could they obtain the human emperor world's inheritance from the Xinyuan Empire? This was harder than ascending to the heavens. Li Ziqing was right again. They had already broken through the Xinjia Gate. Why would they be afraid of the Xinyuan Empire? Even immortals could not compare to the Xinjia Gate. We cannot let the Xinyuan Empire succeed. The Lord of Five Poisons was even more anxious than Su Fang. After the Xinyuan Empire grew stronger, the Five Poison Divine Sect will be the first existence to be destroyed by the Xinyuan Empire. Li Ziqing coldly looked at the two of them. How about we kill the third prince? Su Fang immediately said, we cannot kill him. The third prince will definitely be protected by countless experts. Moreover, he is the successor of the Xinyuan Empire. He must have a peerless power in his body. We cannot kill him. If that happens, we will be exposed, and it will be even more impossible to obtain the inheritance. What this brat says is correct. At present, killing the third crown prince is the best way to resolve this urgent situation. No matter how many tricks the third crown prince has, even if we kill him, won't the Xinyuan Empire create another crown prince to fuse with immortal Emperor World's legacy? The Five Poison Sect Master also agreed. Snatch the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. That will depend on this brat. Seniors, this junior has only fused with one fragment, and I don't know where the rest of the fragments are. I heard that they're going to hide the fragments in an immortal cauldron. If it is really a Tao artifact, then this junior cannot do much. Is that not a good idea? An immortal cauldron? If it is really a Tao artifact protecting all the fragments, then it can be seen that the Xinyuan Empire is determined to obtain the human emperor world. This won't work. That won't work either. Why don't this junior first meet with the chess piece lying in ambush and secretly hide in his divine aperture? I can continue to hide in the upper echelons of the Xinyuan Empire, especially from the great Emperor Dipper. Who knows, I might find an opportunity. All right, most of the opportunities are waiting, but the real opportunities are found by oneself. We will wait for you here. If you find anything, tell us immediately. Okay, looks like the best method is to work together from the inside and the outside. The two big shots and sister you sent Su Fang to the underground cave, and the latter immediately fled to the surface. Difficult. The two giants really didn't have any good ideas. After leaving the ground, Su Fang used the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. He fused his innate power, used a magic treasure to hide his aura, and fused it with the aura of the earth. He shuttled through the sand. Soon, he would be near the headquarters of the Xinyuan Empire. The scene in front of the canyon was completely different from before.